everyone. Welcome to the Afters podcast, where we chit-chat away about music and industry and nightlife. And we have Allya in our midst, in the hot seat. How are you doing? Welcome.
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me. So good to see you guys. I feel like I haven't seen you in days.
Days.
This is a particularly exciting episode for me because I've known Allya literally most of my life.
Yes.
He has been one of my best friends for that period of time. And, it's just an honor to really pick his brain about his past. Because like when he was DJing back in the day, which we will talk about, I kind of kept all that life at arm's reach at that time, as much as they tried to drag me kicking and screaming into it. So it'll be fun to talk about that.
Yeah.
I have mentioned this before on the podcast. So this is to finally get to talk about this
and discuss
really fun.
In detail,
Yeah.
which is why I have no notes today, because we know him just that well.
Yeah.
You will have notes at the end of this interview. Absolutely.
I will have
psychiatric evaluation.
Serious concerns that I will bring up with my therapist after this. So thank you. He'll be paying for my therapy. So I guess we should start where all good things start, at the very beginning. What time were you born? No, I'm just kidding.
In the beginning, there was house. Yeah. We can start there.
I love house.
Yeah. What was your question?
My actual question to you is, what is your first memory that you fell in love with music?
Oh, okay. That I fell in love with it. Now, this is sort of an open-ended question, because if you don't love music, you're kind of a psychopath. Like if you don't have a love for music.
Yeah.
And I actually stole that from you when we were talking about this. Like, 'cause music is, your love of music is such a broad question.
Yeah.
Let's maybe narrow it down to electronic music. Because that's kind of where we're going with this podcast, right?
Yeah.
It's called The Afters, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about electronic music and where my journey with that started. Have you heard of Sandstorm?
Darude?
Yes.
Have you heard of Blue, Eiffel 65?
Absolutely.
Love, they're French.
Have you heard of Radio?
City?
Music hall? No, so back in the day, my dear, when you wanted to hear music, you had to listen to the radio. There was a dial that you had to turn and twist and get to the right station.
Can you tell they're best friends?
And hopefully the music that you enjoyed would come on maybe once an hour every couple of hours.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
So growing
If
up,
you're lucky.
Growing up here in Western Canada and Vancouver specifically, at that time, which would have been high school era, 20 years ago, the only way you were exposed to electronic music was either through the radio, through those two very popular songs specifically, and as well, my other big exposure in Canada was through a weekly show on Much Music. It was called Electric Circus.
Electric Circus.
And that was the thing, as a 12, 13-year-old,
on the pod.
every Friday,
Yeah.
wasn't trying to sneak out of the house. I was turning that thing on.
Yeah.
And
I didn't even like electronic music that much, and I still loved Electric Circus.
Yeah.
So good. Like the music was so good. And it's like, imagine a nightclub. This is how I describe it. It's a club where everybody in there is a go-go dancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody else is invited.
Yeah.
Just go-go dancers.
And they're all wearing shiny shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or shiny boots.
Full go-go costumes.
Yeah.
They all have their own pedestals. They don't walk around and socialize. They literally are just dancing their role.
Yeah.
And they're doing that for, hour, 2 hours?
I think it was a 2-hour show.
Yeah.
It would be filmed in front of a live studio audience, and there would literally be a line of people around the block trying to get the invite in so that they could be part of the interior audience and dancing on camera. And they'd all get dressed up. They'd have their fluffies and their rave attire, that stuff, just so they could try and get in and be on one of those pedestals, and maybe they get picked out of the crowd.
Yeah.
I remember the
But they'd be
music.
looking through the window.
Yeah. Just gawking in, and it'd be like, I don't know, minus 10, minus 15 degrees in Ontario.
Oh
and just like in their winter clothes, just looking at these people. And they'd have guest DJs like every Friday night. I remember seeing like Alice DJ on there one week. I think it was DJ Jurgen. Hatiras, who is a Toronto local at that time, who became like a very well-known house DJ, and he's still touring in the scene. That was definitely my first exposure in Canada. Also around that time, age 12, 13, 14, like one of those years, my parents and I went to Europe because that's where my father's from originally. He was Dutch. And from there, I learned about, like compilation albums. And by that time, I had like a little bit of, my own personal income just from like newspaper routes, that sort of thing. So that's where I'd spend all my money. When we'd go overseas, where I'd go to Europe, I'd be buying all these like compilation discs because that was the only way you could find like good European, I guess at that time would have been Eurodance or like Eurotrance, that sort of thing. And that was my first exposure to things like Whamdoo Project, like, gosh, what's their big tune? King of My Castle, which was like a huge tune. Yeah, huge tune, gets covered like once every couple of years. Yeah. So that was
these are
another
not
big
trick
one.
question songs.
Yeah.
Phew,
Also,
questions are over.
also another one I remember very clearly is Veracocha, Carte Blanche. So bum 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 bum. So that's a big Ferry Corsten tune.
Yeah.
And then from there, obviously went to Tiesto, Armin, all the usual suspects of trance.
Yeah.
That was definitely my first exposure into the electronic music. And then once I got into, I guess between junior high school and kind of like middle school, I started to figure out that there actually was a rave scene here. And that's when stuff got real,
and that's
as
when
they
all hell
say.
broke loose.
Yeah. And my parents obviously, you know, they were pretty conservative. Obviously, they allowed me to experience things, but they would never have been okay with me going, you know, out with friends, that sort of thing. I'm like 14, 15 years old, right? You don't want me on the streets. You absolutely, like, look at me now. If you see me now on the streets, I shouldn't be there. I shouldn't be there.
Cross the street.
Send me back to the home.
Avoid him.
Cross the street to avoid. Yeah. So, okay, story time. I was so enamored with the idea of like the rave scene, having like been experienced to this music and, you know, kind of just learning about a little bit about the scene from the internet and learning about rave culture and seeing the Electric Circus every Friday. Once I found out that there was a rave scene here, I think I was like using Yahoo at the time to try and figure out like, hey, like how do you get to parties? How do you learn about parties? That sort of thing. And there was this website, no word of a lie. This website was called teamhardcore.com.
Team Hardcore.
Now,
remember this.
Teamhardcore.com.
Remember this.
Oh my god.
Now,
that rings a huge bell.
Now,
Okay.
So go on the Wayback Machine if you've ever used that tool online, and it'll take you back to how websites were historically. Like,
Okay.
You can look back
this is
and
a real
see.
thing.
Yeah. Go on the
Okay.
Wayback Machine, and you can type that in, and then click, I think, the month and the year around like 1999, 2000, and you might actually be able to see that site. And it was like very basic HTML code and GIFs. Oh yeah. And this website, it was. It's definitely not that anymore. Team Hardcore. That was definitely a different type of site now.
Different kind
Don't,
of
yeah. It's not probably not work safe. But back then, it was a scene dedicated to the Vancouver rave scene, and it was great. It had like a very basic calendar, and you could click on any day of that calendar and see like all the parties that were coming up.
God, I never
and
did that.
and there used to be
Crazy.
like 5 or 6 parties every Thursday, Friday,
in
Saturday
some
night.
dingy warehouse somewhere.
Probably.
Somewhere in warehouse. Sometimes it was at oh gosh, I can't even remember the name.
Cabbage Fields?
No.
What
See, now you're talking about Apex Project. You're talking about, or Josh's show Summer Break happened at the Cabbage Pet Field out in Popcom.
Remember who did we have on? It was
Josh and Danny, right?
Yeah.
No, before then, the gentleman who was a Ableton trainer.
Oh yeah.
Was escaping
Oh,
me.
what's his name?
Hang on, let me go back. Shoot.
But anyway, I remember.
this guy,
I remember some
he
of
was
these
talking
parties
about-
we go to were like.
So this site had the calendar, and the other fun thing it had on it, which was great for me as a 15-year-old, was it had a rave dictionary, and it told you all the terms for rave related like things.
That's incredible.
And from that, like I got all of like the slang and like could understand what people were talking about, because it really was its own culture back then.
Yeah.
Like E-tard,
Yeah.
you know, E-tard was an actual thing that you could look up. It was like, what is it? What's an E-tard? It's like, oh, it's someone who's like high on ecstasy.
Yeah.
By the way, since we're on the subject, anything we talk about in regards to drugs, substances, illicit
It's all
activities, it's
theoretical.
all jest.
Hypothetical.
Hypothetical, never happened. None of this can be used to prosecute me. Or them.
Everything is a theory.
Yeah.
Everything's a cute
This is
story.
an entertainment podcast.
Exactly. We're here to entertain.
Jay Garrett.
Jay Garrett, yes.
I hope it's entertaining.
Yeah.
Um,
If it's not, please let us know in the comments, the comment
actually,
section.
don't.
It's good.
Just get over this.
No, I want to
Please
hear
don't
from
break
you.
My heart.
From the 8 people out there, I want to hear from you. What do you want to hear from me?
Please tell me. Yeah. So Jay Garrett was talking about the Cabbage Patch Field.
Okay, that's a name I recognize. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would have probably been around
Plaza Nations.
Plaza of Nations is back now Plaza of Nations is the Harbor Event and Convention Center,
Yeah.
as well as the Harbor Theater. So yeah, that was one of the first places I raved growing up.
So funny.
I'm old enough to remember how sad it was when that place got shut down and turned into a
so
casino.
sad.
Yeah. Because that was sort of the once my friends and I all got into DJing, that was the place that everyone wanted to play. Like that was
We're skipping a little bit ahead though, so let's
go
back to high school.
So anyways, we're talking about etards.
Yeah.
Looking at a couple right now.
This is on the website. It's all theoretical.
The website told you all the terminology, all that sort of thing. It also talked, I think it had like the BK meetup. So there used to be this Burger King on Granville, and that's where all the ravers would hang out on a Friday night. Yeah.
We are getting the Vancouver lore.
Yeah, so once I figured out a way to get out of the house, that was the place where I go on a Friday night just to like try and meet people.
Yeah.
Get rides to things.
Yeah.
You know, because obviously if it wasn't a downtown thing, I didn't have like a safe way there and back. It was
I was one of the stupid kids driving up and down Robson blasting hip hop music at the same time you were doing that. So
why do you think I wanted you on my team? Like, Mazen has a car?
Yeah.
He's like, Mazen, what's up? He's like, no, I'm busy on Robson, you guys.
I could not. I was just so not interested in the music at that time.
Can't talk. Chronic 2001 just dropped.
Because the rave scene here was just a slight tangent. Was more trance than house. You know, the stuff that you heard on Electric Circus was not what they were playing here.
Yeah.
Well, they did, but and it was the Plaza of Nations, and it had 3 rooms. So there was the main hall where they have shows now. Okay. That was the main arena. Yes, it was predominantly trance.
Yeah.
Then there was a room on that same floor towards the back, underneath where the theater is.
That's right.
And that was the breakbeat room.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then the theater room was always
upstairs. Yeah.
Usually 90% of the time it was dedicated to house.
Right. Well, I didn't get up there apparently.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It was
you
great.
Didn't get that
it was
far
great.
in.
Yeah.
Yes.
The other big, I guess, compare and contrast to then versus now would be that back room, that breakbeat room I was talking about. It used to be just full of b-boys and b-girls. Like that was a big part of the scene in the 2000s. Was people would go there, form dance circles, and like do not battles necessarily, but just like strut their stuff.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of just people that were like very into dance and liquid and what was it, wiggling. I can't remember. I guess liquid culture. To the extent where like some of the headliners they had for those shows, especially Twisted shows, they would actually get like b-boys and b-girls from other cities. Like they would build them,
fly them in,
or they'd drive them in. Yeah, they have them in. They'd pay them to be there, like the same as any like
a dance performance with their DJ.
Yeah,
set.
so you have like you'd have your headliner, and you have like a 15-minute performance by like Wigglesworth, you know, from the West Coast. So there was a lot more, I guess, thought put into like, hey, this isn't just a party. This is like
a performance,
and also like a little bit of a cultural exchange,
collaboration of different kind of elements.
Exactly.
You've got the music, you've got the DJs, the dance.
Yeah. So that was cool. the peak era of like Plaza of Nations raving, and that would have probably been from like '99, which is like before I started raving, up to like 2004, which is closer to the time that I had become a senior in high school and started getting more into the rave scene. And at some point I decided, what would be cool? Be a DJ.
So tell us how that started.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, so the introvert extrovert quandary.
Yeah.
Debate.
Well, it's not really. I guess it's an internal struggle.
Sure.
Because growing up, I was always a very introverted kid. Didn't have a lot of friends. Wasn't very outgoing. I loved science fiction. I was in love with like a film franchise that had been dormant for 20 years called Star Wars. So not the coolest kid on the block. So, if I was going to ever meet members of the opposite sex, it was going to be through like musical theater. So I became a theater kid. Did that for a few years, the beginning of...
Genius.
Yeah, right?
No, it really
Now, I didn't do the whole like, I'm gay, you might change me. But I was
Yeah.
I was the token, dude in theater.
Yeah.
I think there was like 2 others.
I think I tried that for a month and I fucking
you
exited
got out of
it.
it. Well, I mean, as someone of the
I went back to
opposite
photography. I was like, I'm doing photography.
Forget
That's
about
my
this.
thing.
Photography is a
Yeah.
good one too. It's like, you could be a model. Has anyone told you that before?
Oh my god! Just pose there. See what
Actually,
happens.
just little side thing. I actually went into hairdressing too.
Wow.
I turned to hairdressing. I was the only guy in hairdressing, and I literally just got my head massaged every day in class. It was the fucking best. They wouldn't let me touch the scissors or any of the hair stuff. Just fucking practice massaging on me. I'm like, this is the best life right now.
Oh my
man,
gosh!
that's
Life
amazing.
pro tips out there,
Yeah.
not
That's
only
good.
for DJs but
Yeah.
for everybody else
Yeah,
too.
you're in high school, want to get fondled by chicks for free?
Oh my god! If you're in high school and watching this pod, just stop. Just stop
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Just turn it off. Just a whole bunch of old dudes, and
Yeah.
I don't know
You
how I
guys
got
have
here.
Tinder now. Like, you don't need any of this stuff.
You'll be fine.
Okay.
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so musical theater, but a lot of people didn't do musical theater in order to get into like a community of some sort. Too.
Absolutely.
I did musical theater,
Yeah.
tested musical theater. I think one of the other girls, Minxie, I think, was saying she did musical
Yeah.
theater.
Oh,
for a
she was
minute.
heavy into musical
Yeah,
theater.
a lot of us did.
And
So
she
did
still does
you-
acting to this day. So
Yeah.
yeah. No, I
Did
did it.
you like it?
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoyed it a
Yeah.
lot, and I enjoyed improv. So that was really fun for me as well.
Yeah.
At some I did some on stage productions at like local theater in North Vancouver where I grew up, and then
Fun.
eventually my voice cracked,
Oh no.
and then it all just came crashing down. So then I was kind of like,
That's the end of you.
I'm at the back.
Yeah.
I'm at the back of the queue. But you know what's funny about musical theater people? A lot of them are into the rave scene.
They are?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
they're
are?
free spirits.
They are?
Yeah, so I met a couple cool
You know,
people,
I love a good costume.
right?
If you're
Yeah.
in the theater,
Yeah.
if you're out and about, if you're here, I just love you love a good fit,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Don't knock it.
Yeah, so that was kind of my segue into being like, okay, I'm a little bit more comfortable with myself. I'm comfortable in front of people. What else can I do to, still have a bit of a block between myself and people around me? So like instead of a stage, maybe it's turntables. What's the thing that I'm going to use as kind of like a tool for getting out there without being pushed into a crowd and being like, hey, I have to be super social now. So I just kind of chose DJing, having already been into the music and enjoyed like watching Electric Circus and try to understand what they were doing up there with those turntables.
Buying those compilation CDs.
Yeah, exactly. Right, because I already had a huge musical library. I'm like, I think this is the thing to do. And from that, like once people at school had learned that I had kind of chosen that, I started getting invited to like keggers and like a lot of football after parties, that sort of thing. And the thing about playing those events, you learn very quickly that they don't like trance and house music. So that
You
very
don't
quickly forced
say.
me to expand my repertoire. Maybe I
Yeah.
would have seen you there once in a while, Mazen. They were playing.
Oh,
They're playing your song.
I didn't get
Yeah.
invited to those parties either.
Well, there you go. You should have been a DJ.
I was also much older.
Yeah, that's
Well,
true.
and like being a couple years older
Yeah.
is a huge chasm back
Yeah,
in
yeah.
back then, yeah.
That's
So,
true.
Yeah, you and I were not in the same circles per se until after
Yeah,
high
you
school.
you had graduated by the time I came
Yeah,
to
I was
that school.
I was 99.
Yeah,
I graduated.
yeah. Okay, cool. So a
Yeah.
little bit of an age difference.
Yeah.
Then how did we meet? We met through Lucas, who was
Yeah.
your grad year,
Yeah.
and I knew Lucas through Mel, who was also
Yeah.
your grad. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I dated older in high school.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
peaked in high school. Now the only women who will date me are like 8 years my junior, and they're like, I also like to do stupid things on weekends. Great.
Great.
Let's
Join
let's
the
do
party.
that. Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a lot of
Yeah,
that.
Exactly.
I can only attract 22-year-olds.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to. That's all I get. They're like, oh, you've got your own apartment and a car? You're super cool. Once you turn 27, 28, they're like, what are you doing with your
Golden
life?
ticket.
Yeah.
I
I don't
mean,
know.
What's your
They're not into that. It's much.
Tell me about your retirement plan.
so where do
In
you
this
see yourself in
economy?
10 years?
Exactly. I'm doing exactly the same thing.
I'm gonna buy
Yeah,
a teapot tomorrow.
not cute. Anyway, so.
What kind of teapot are you getting?
Now, okay, so there's this black one. It's really cool.
That
It's
was
like it
just
has
me
a-
being nice. I don't.
Yeah.
Let's talk about me.
So anyways,
Okay, so you decided to become a DJ.
Yeah.
So how did that work back then? Because obviously getting DJ gear was ridiculously expensive back then. So how did you start that process?
I got one of the first generations of CDJs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went backwards. I started with CDJs, and then professionals in the industry were like, "Bro, why are you playing CDs?"
Yeah.
And I went backwards, and then I bought turntables like a year and a half later.
Yeah.
And then.
So like $20,000 into it right now. Or
Honestly, probably 20 or 30 at this point.
Yeah.
Like I've got 1,200 records at home.
Yeah.
Each one of those back then was probably like, a lot of them were imports. They were probably average $20 each.
Yeah.
And I was having to go to a record store.
1999/2000.
This would have been about 2004.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember. So at the time, I would have been just out of high school. I would have been working down on Water Street, like right beside the C-Bus terminal.
Yeah.
And right across the street was a record shop.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd be there like
Dangerous.
lunch break,
Yeah.
half-hour break, there all the time, like every break, just like sifting through records, and eventually went through like probably half the store and grabbing like, trance, house, breakbeat, drum and bass, all that stuff.
You were allowed to listen to them in the store.
Oh, yeah. They
That's
had
so
like
cool.
listening stations. Yeah. There's still a couple stores like that down there. Like I believe, is it Beat Street? Beat Street Records is still down there.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, but this was another shop, that a used record shop that was just kitty corner to my work. So that's where I'd be like almost every day, just going through records. And then every Friday from that place, we'd go over to The Drink, which is now Red Room. And at that time, it was, I think it was Blake's father, Dale, who's running the show. And so I'd be down there.
Wow.
Yeah. They used to have pool tables at Red Room.
Yeah.
So we'd be playing pool.
Up until recently, they actually had pool tables.
I can't remember when they got rid of them.
I think, I want to
was
say they
sitting
had
there.
them even after COVID for a bit. And then I think
I think for a hot second,
Really?
and then
because
they got
I
rid
think
of
the
them.
reason they got rid of it
Yeah.
is because the place is getting way too popular. They just keep cramming it now.
Well, darn.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they used to, even up until it's hard to pinpoint it, but I would say up until the last 2 years, they had a pool table there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say it reopened. I went to Red Room once or twice. I think it was pretty much gone by that point, but they definitely had a pool table in
Yeah,
there.
pool table,
Yeah.
But it's okay. Still a great venue. We're not mad about the pool table. I like having more room at the back to dance.
Yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know about Red Room, like,
Yeah, where have you
What?
been?
Come to
Actually, best
Vancouver.
club in Vancouver.
yeah,
it's
easily
great.
the best club in Vancouver, best sound system for sure.
Hands
Like they
down
have a
best
proper
sound
PK
system.
rig. Honestly, probably the nicest people there. You know.
Oh, for sure. It's a real festival.
Yeah.
I mean, we've said this before. It's a bass club. The bass crowd's the best crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. The bass crowd is the
drum
best
and
crowd.
bass,
Very inclusive.
dubstep.
Like,
Yeah.
I
missing
see like 20-year-olds there. I
genres,
see people more in our age.
Yeah.
All the way to
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
50.
It's a
no
very
problem.
respectful crowd too. It's very much like eclectic and
Yeah.
hippie. Everyone's welcome.
Yeah.
You know, you meet friends. You're very friendly. There's
Yeah.
no bottle service whatsoever.
They're actually there. I believe you can get a booth and you can get.
Nowadays,
consumption,
they
yeah.
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
nowadays you can.
You got to
Oh,
cater to that. Like
is
there's
that new?
people our age that are like, I don't want to be in the shit, and I would like
Yeah.
to be further removed and have a safe space where I won't get jostled around, and that's fair. I think
love that.
I love having that option. You know, but it's at the back. It's not for
Yeah.
people who are like, look at me.
Yeah.
I have the bottle. It hath
Well, it used
cost
to be
me
you could
10
just take a
times.
seat whenever you want. And now they just they have it reserved now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's new.
Another thing Red Room has that nobody else has: a water fountain. Take note, venue owners. Get yourself a water fountain.
Yeah.
Hydrate your people.
Yeah.
They will be happier
Yeah.
and they will spend more at the bar. I
Although
promise.
celebrities does have water stations now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay,
they have
good.
them way in the corner of the bar on the. If you're facing the stage on the left, there is a water station there with
Oh.
cups.
Excellent.
And they
And they
them-
have cups.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
and they have
Yeah.
them at Village as well.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Left of the
That's
bar,
wonderful.
on the corner, just between the entrance and the bar,
Yeah.
there's a water station.
It's good for your
Perfect.
patrons. Honestly, it's good for your bartenders too, because you
Yeah.
don't want to be
Yeah,
holding up
you-
the line and be like, may I
exactly.
please have a glass of water?
Yeah, water's over there. Go get it.
Yeah.
Lisa.
Please, may I have some more? No, you get 250 mils. That's it.
Yeah.
But I've been dancing. It
Measuring
says
it
I've been
up.
dancing 8,000 steps. Well,
Too bad, so sad.
dehydration is always an option.
I guess you're fainting at the bar. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
So you're
Yeah.
buying crates of
Yeah.
vinyl. You've got
Yeah.
CDJs,
Loving
and
the life.
and how you were self-taught.
Self-taught.
Yeah.
Mm,
That's
no,
wild.
YouTube?
This is like
YouTube at the time?
What's YouTube?
Yeah.
YouTube didn't come
YouTube
around for like
exist?
5 years.
like 2006.
Okay, I
Yeah,
was really
yeah,
young in
yeah.
2000s, all right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
bulletin
was
boards. I don't know.
Still in high
Like
school.
I don't know where you'd get that information.
So
Videos, rent videos.
So
Yeah.
at that time,
On a cassette player?
there was So at that
Okay,
time,
relax.
there
It's not the
was
Flintstones.
there was a DJ school in Vancouver.
Yeah.
I never went, but I recall once when I was at Tom Leon Granville, that one of the teachers from that DJ school happened to be doing a 1-hour seminar. And so as I'm just, going through like the turntable area and checking out new mixers and stuff, I happened to walk past the atrium, and she's doing this this little seminar trying to drum up business for the school. And I happened to walk by as she was talking about phrasing and lining up beats.
Oh, interesting.
And from that 10 minutes, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
Well,
like,
you've
it's not-
listened to so much music.
Yeah,
You probably
yeah.
studied in musical theater school.
I never thought, I never really studied music theory, but yeah, the idea of phrases
Yeah.
and bars and
Yeah.
measures like that, I was like, okay, that clicks.
Yeah.
So
It's kind of
Yeah, I didn't know
I
what
need to
terminology was,
know.
but when I started DJing, because I listened to so many mixes
Yeah.
before.
yeah,
I knew what it was. I knew what you were doing. I just didn't know what it was called.
exactly.
Yeah.
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 DJing is not a hard thing to grasp.
Basic
It's-
DJing is
in
not hard.
today's time,
Yeah.
I don't know how it was back then, especially on
Yeah.
turntables. But
To be honest, it was easier then than it is now, because technology today only works if you understand how to use it.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Grimes? Can we
please,
want to talk about that?
anyway,
Yeah.
go
So-
for it. Yeah.
The whole Grimes thing that happened is she's not a DJ. She's a great performer,
Yeah.
but I don't think she's a DJ.
Yeah.
And you can't just decide you're going to be a DJ and not do a little bit of the homework required
Yeah.
to pull that off.
Yeah.
I mean, even
So
she
she knows what a
admitted
bar is.
herself.
She knows what a measure. She knows what a phrase is. But
Yeah.
if you're having someone else kind of do the homework as far as like, hey, writing beat grids and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
We never had beat grids,
Yeah.
And this is not me doing the old man shaking a stick. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, back then, a record was a record. You could make it, I guess, up to 12 or 14% faster, or 12 or 14% slower.
Yeah.
And if you couldn't get the two records to align within that percentage, you couldn't line them up. You couldn't mix
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So in today's day and age, with technology where you can make it plus or minus 100% faster or slower,
You can go
and
pretty far, yeah.
You can create beat grids so that even if you aren't very good at beat matching, you can set the sync and like have them follow each other to within like a couple milliseconds. So you can be a competent DJ with very little I guess effort, but you still need the knowledge to be able to know how to use the software to get those results,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So like back in the day for cue points, DJs would actually like put stickers
Yeah.
on records
Yeah,
so
for
that
sure.
you'd know like like wherever the needle jumped, that it would hit a cue
Yeah.
point, and that's where you would start the record
Yeah.
for your
The equivalent
your
of like sticky notes. They would like tear
Yeah.
up sticky notes and put them literally on the record itself.
Yeah.
At a point on the
Interesting.
Yeah.
edge.
Yeah.
And you'd see it going around. You'd see them go. Bring
Yeah.
Around,
Yeah.
and just go. You'd see the little sticky note going like this.
Oh.
yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Such cool stuff that
The
was
more you know.
like there's no technology for that, so they made it.
Yeah.
Right. Same with like who was like the first I can't remember the first turntablist or first DJ doing it, but I feel like Grandmaster Flash was
Yeah.
one of the
Yeah.
the grandfathers of the art form,
Yeah.
and like all the things that he learned to do with like belt drive turntables before direct drive
Yeah.
turntables came along. It's
Yeah.
like I literally have to figure out how to make technology that's not built for this purpose
Yeah.
to do this thing. Like
Yeah.
instead of speeding up a record with a pitch fader,
Yeah.
which the turntable didn't really have,
Yeah.
he was literally just
Yeah,
going
make it
around
a
on the
little bit
record,
faster.
pushing
And
a little bit
making it
faster, yeah,
faster.
or pinching the spindle in the middle to
Yeah.
slow it
Yeah.
down.
Oh, I do that
Or-
all the
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
where it came from.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Crazy,
All
right?
these little techniques, the ingenuity,
Yeah,
you just
yeah.
had to figure it
Yeah.
out on your
Yeah.
own.
You know what I loved about when DJing became more of a digital art form, and I got into like Serato and like bringing a laptop. While the laptop pulls you away from the audience, the thing that I loved about having a laptop is you literally had all your music at your fingertips.
Yeah. Your whole library
Yeah.
instead of bringing
Everything.
crates for that particular
Yeah,
show.
for years.
Yeah. Or
um,
CDs or
when
even
we were
that,
when we were doing vinyl shows, you'd have like a crate, like a really nice crate, but it was one crate, and you could fit maybe like 75 records into it,
Yeah.
100, You know,
Yeah.
some DJs, like some traveling touring DJs like Z Trip would have like 4 of those that they take with them on tour.
Oh my gosh.
And they, like, I used to hear stories about how those would break open during, like, they'd check those bags,
Yeah.
and they'd break open, and all of a sudden there'd just be a carousel of records, broken
rolling
records
down the
flying
street.
down.
Oh
Like,
my goodness.
so yeah, so
I
things like
would-
that.
I would cry. I would just full on
Yeah.
tantrum and cry.
Yeah, can you imagine being on tour and your
Records break?
music library is just gone, right?
Yeah.
Like nowadays we
Like,
have like USBs. Like I
People
could
cry
have.
if USBs go missing, but then you can always download it if you have it on the cloud. Then you just download it from the cloud. You're saved.
Well, now we have the opposite problem. So actually,
Tell me.
I ran into an issue with an artist, I guess like shortly before COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and he had come here, he had played a set, and he had left his USB plugged into the decks. Got him back to the hotel, and he realized, oh, I forgot my USB.
Mm-hmm.
And that USB went missing for like an hour.
Uh-oh.
And he started worrying, not freaking out. He was very respectful about it.
Yeah.
And we figured out like
Where it went?
We figured out where it had gone,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a very much like, ooh,
Yeah.
that's
For his next
that's-
gig, he doesn't have his USB.
oh
Yeah.
no, that's
Probably
fine.
doesn't have a back.
That's that's
Oh.
fine.
Oh, what was it?
It's his music. It's unreleased music.
Oh, unreleased music.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
he could-
So now we have
he-
like almost the opposite problem,
Yeah.
where it's like now that music that some people hold very precious, especially since a lot of labels now they want it to be fresh, and if you put it out anywhere,
Yeah.
then a lot of them won't look at it. They'll just
Yeah.
be like, well, it's already out there. You know, people
What's
are
the
already
point of
downloading.
using
What's the point
it?
of us signing it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They want it to be super new.
Uh-huh.
So he was very worried about that, and
Fair
fair
enough.
play.
Yeah.
And that person whose house it was at, who we had rented that gear from, they were a DJ. I'm like, that's very sus.
Come on.
Yeah, answer your phone. I'm coming
Yeah.
up to get that thumb drive. you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
He's like,
We need a thing
I'll be home in
back.
20 minutes. He's
Yeah.
like, download it.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. Now I
Yeah.
think you can password those drives to an extent, but I'm not sure how that works with CDJs.
Yeah, I'm not
I
sure
have
either.
no
Yeah.
idea.
Anyway, I don't
Yeah.
worry that
Myself.
much about music that way. Like, I'm pretty careful. I'm pretty careful with what I do with my USBs.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like, I don't have the attitude that a lot of DJs used to have, which was, my music is my brand.
Yeah.
And if someone else gets a hold of my music, then,
Yeah.
I'm not
Cool,
Cool,
irrelevant,
viable,
yeah.
bookable.
and that used to be a serious thing.
It-
I don't
for
know if
sure.
it was a
Really was.
global.
Gatekeeping for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one.
Well, I mean, DJing used to pay more, so it was more at stake.
Yeah,
And also,
yeah.
it was a little bit more elite.
Yeah, well, and also there was a higher barrier of entry, right? Like
Yeah, that's
literally, your music collection would cost you like thousands of dollars. Now it's
Yeah.
$1.99. Now music is almost like it's
Basically
disposable,
free.
Yeah.
right? Yeah, you can get a lot
There are
of it.
thousands of songs being released every day.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, the
yeah.
amount of music that's coming out, the amount of DJs,
Yeah.
the amount of consumerism has gone down a little bit.
Oh, absolutely,
you know,
absolutely.
in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see how the industry has changed. Just over the past 20 years. I can only imagine what it would be like for someone like Grandmaster Flash, who's seen it
Totally.
for like 50.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
The whole thing.
Yeah,
how it's
because
changed.
even producing it used to be not gatekeepery, but it was very much it was black magic.
Yeah,
Okay.
the barrier to
If-
entry was much higher for sure.
Exactly.
You were paying for major expenses on different synths if you
Yeah.
want to do electronic music, whereas
Yeah.
now you can just download those packs
Well,
instead of having physical stuff, which you could still do.
yeah. That and like the knowledge wasn't out there. If
Yeah,
you wanted
exactly.
to learn how to use like Fruity Loops, you could learn it pretty well on your own. But if you used to have to like buy a DVD that would teach you, how to produce in like Reason or Pro Tools or whatever software you were using at that time. Now, I mean, I've sent you probably dozens of tutorials. You're probably sick of all the
Easily, yeah.
But it's like
I learned
now if you want to learn
online.
something, I don't
Yeah.
even have to teach you. I can be like, oh yeah, you want to learn that thing here.
Yeah.
Use
This is
this-
what
use
you
this
would
tutorial.
search for
Yeah.
even. Like
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
be that like back,
Yeah.
like backed off
Yeah.
from it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now the software. I mean, the software is not free, but a resourceful person can find the software for free if if the financial barrier for entry is too high for them, or there's
Yeah.
there's
And it's
student
not
deals.
even that high, really.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
It's like very within like professional tools pricing.
Yeah.
It's not thousands and $30,000s of dollars
Yeah.
to get all the gear and equipment and everything like
I
that.
mean, you can spend
Yeah.
that much. I
Yeah.
I have some friends who they're not gear sluts, but they're like plug-in sluts, and they end up getting a lot of expensive, basically virtual versions of hardware synths, right? So you can get like, basically it's like the hardware synth. It sounds the same, it's programmed the same. It's got the same warmth. It's got the same textures. It has the same dials, but it's all virtual, right? So you can still spend a lot of money that way.
There's
You
a
know.
lot of-
What else? Other compare and contrast from then to now. Again, so the barrier for entry is quite a bit lower, which in turn has made the competition that much more fierce. Because now, like a 14-year-old can make outstanding music, right?
I mean, Maddie and Audion,
Yeah.
2 examples of like little kids 10 years ago.
Yeah. Dion Timmer was 14, I think, when Excision signed him.
Yeah.
Like crazy, insane,
Wild.
right? It's just like who is the nerdiest nerd? Who can out nerd the other nerds? Who can start younger, learn more, and
do
just
better, be on
do
top.
better? Yeah. And also like, you know, run a Patreon at the same time, and also you know, do
Social
YouTube
media.
tutorials.
Don't forget about TikTok.
And don't forget about accounting school, because your parents need you to go to
Viral-
accounting school, John.
Mr.
I'm looking
John.
at you.
Go back to school, John.
You know, but it's like
Yeah.
the amount of work that some of these kids do.
They really do.
They like, it's like, how many of them are there? It's like just one person just doing all this stuff, hitting all the right notes, like, and also being engaging and producing content.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm not a content creator. I'm
huge-
barely an artist most days. You know, I'm just
So humble.
Well, I want to keep going. So you started DJing, you started doing that stuff because, like, you know, I remember a few years after that, not a few years, maybe many years after that, you were doing quite well DJing. You're some big shows. So take us on that journey a little bit, like with how that went. You know, let's say we're at like what, 2004, right? 2004.
Yeah. So 2004.
And just a quick interrupt. That's when that's when they were starting to drag me out to those twisted
right.
shows.
Yeah.
In the Plaza of Nations.
This is
and
the
like
heyday that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And also, like, you know, I used to work at Rogers with Greg C. and
That's
Azim
right.
Varani
You did. Yeah.
and all those guys. These guys were big deal in like they ran Twisted. They were doing raves. Like Allya was like, those guys were like thick as thieves.
It was so weird. Like that one mall.
Yeah.
This is at Capilano Mall in North Vancouver. That one mall was like the epicenter for the rave scene for a bit.
Working retail.
Yeah, working retail. That's literally what was done there. It was a bunch of dudes who
working
were
at
either
Rogers Wireless or Radio Shack.
Yeah. And me working, I was doing 2 retail jobs in that mall, plus selling rave tickets once they let me. It's like, I could probably sell tickets for you, you know? How many guys were there? It was Greg C., Azim Varani, Tazix, Dennis Tran, and they all worked there slanging phones.
Yeah.
And just,
that was a good business back then. Cell phone, like, you could make 70, 80K a year. No problem.
Yeah.
Back then.
And then immediately dumping that money back into throwing raves.
Yeah.
Genius.
Yeah. Genius.
Yeah. And that was a time when you could literally just they were already making bank selling phones, and they made their bank on top of that, throwing raves at the Plaza of Nations.
Yeah.
It's a wild time to be alive.
They had it made.
They did.
They did.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
They found a niche and stuck to it.
Yeah. Well, Azim, who we mentioned his name, I don't know if you mentioned before on the pod, but
I don't know, but possibly.
We used to call him Rave God.
Yeah.
Not just us, but like the scene called him Rave God, because he wasn't the first to do it, but I think he was the first to do it well. In you know, holding what we called massives, so like large scale rave type events, and working with the city to make them somewhat safe.
Yeah.
Because that was always a big concern for the city. It's like, because before it was primarily warehouse parties, or there were a couple
warehouse dungeons, abandoned warehouse building suites. Like, it was
the cabbage
dingy.
patches.
It's not the glamorous like LED
foundations
lighting,
that
like,
we have now.
No, you're talking about like
very
going
industrial.
into a room with stark white halogen lights, and like it's all concrete. There's broken couches on the ground. And the sound is just reverberating off the walls, like you'd have no sound quality whatsoever. You'd see bugs going up the fucking. It was.
I never saw that. I don't. Maybe this is why Mazen didn't go.
No, some of these parties I went to.
He's like, listen, this is a trauma I endured. You guys have to endure it with me.
You're not making it sound too good. Maybe I've got
no.
rose-colored
This is the worst. Like, some of the worst ones. But like, this is like you would go to stuff like that, And then you'd go to Plaza of Nations.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
This is in between, but Plaza of Nations, where this place was just like decked out in decorations. There's like art. It's like imagine
All the b-boys
base
and girls
coast
are
in
just-
one building.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
art installations, massage booth there, some sort of
Sign
thing
me
over
up.
here,
The
like
VIP.
VIP upstairs.
I remember because like once I was in with those guys, I'd always get VIP tickets to those shows.
Ooh.
So you'd get your own entrance
Yeah.
From the third floor at Plaza
Yes,
Nations.
that's right.
And then they had buffet.
Yeah, exactly. They had food
They had a
too,
buffet.
Yeah.
And they had like nice leather couches.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh.
you'd have your buffet, you'd be sitting on a couch. And I remember one party in particular, I think it must have been 2004, 2005. And we were all, of course, stone sober. Sitting on, of course,
Naturally.
sitting on these
Definitely.
couches, 7 a.m. And this is a glass building.
Mhm.
The sun is coming up.
Yeah.
And there's a bird that somehow got into the Plaza of Nations. just flying around above you. Just fly. I hope that bird was okay.
Magical.
But I was like, this is magic, you guys. This is great.
Yeah.
I've got my buffet here.
Yeah.
I have my leather.
My hot tub.
Yeah. The trance is blasting.
Oh
It's
my
fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dreams do come
They
true.
really do. They really do. So
That
yeah,
is
so
epic.
so I was in this epicenter of I guess rave culture in this mall. You know, just working retail jobs, selling rave tickets, trying to convince these guys like, hey, you should really let me play a show. And like people are just starting to realize that DJing might be cool at this point. Like DJing was not cool. I
Yeah.
did it strictly as a means of getting into like I want to meet
Yeah.
people. I want to
Yeah.
get to cool
Have
high school
something between
parties.
you and them.
Exactly. It was all
Do
just
your
me trying to
thing.
be like more social and come out of my shell. As teenagers, eventually want to do that. But yeah, competition became very fierce to become a DJ and like play these parties as the party culture slowed down a bit. Like there used to be 2, 3, 4 shows a weekend, and it got a little bit more exclusive, fewer shows, bigger shows,
Yeah.
but less of them.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of smaller companies started like either teaming up or getting absorbed into bigger ones, and so eventually when I wasn't getting booked for those shows, went and did our own. And then we started on the low end doing things like the Korean Cultural Center, which right down from where the Waldorf is now. So that venue used to be able to
Okay.
throw raves there for like 200-300 people. So I did those for a couple of years.
Sick.
And is this with the Twisted, or
No,
this is something just on your own?
this is on our own.
Yeah,
This is on our own. And so we did that until we grew to a point that we were doing 600 or 700 person, like we would call them mini massives, and they were legal. Like we went through the same hoops as what Twisted did, like talk to the city. They weren't called raves, they were called LNDEs, late night dance events. Or as I used to joke, raves without the E. Because you'd have to pay to...
A rave.
Yeah, a rave. It was a rave.
A lot of raves.
It was a rave.
Raves back then.
You'd have to pay to have the police there. You'd have to pay for fire, all the stuff.
Yeah.
The same stuff that they...
So it's sanctioned back then. Like
Yeah.
they would let you kind of have it.
They would, yeah. And, we
Was
weren't
there
heavily regulated.
bars?
heavily regulated.
Was there any
No bars.
No
No
bars.
No bars. So it was
BYOB.
all ages.
Yeah,
Bring your own
drive-ins.
bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they would go to 7, sometimes 8 in the morning.
Wow.
Like that's
And the
how
police
raves...
would just like be right along there with you. No, would they go home?
Sorry, the police?
Yeah.
Oh no, they were paid to be there.
Yeah.
Or rather,
okay.
we paid the city to have them there. They
Yeah.
never, they
Gotcha.
didn't,
Yeah,
they didn't
yeah.
get that take home. They
Yeah.
got whatever their regular wage was,
Okay, cool.
and they were there because, especially at that point, the city recognized that obviously there's a duty of care issue because you've got minors partying with like 25, 30-year-olds, but at that point, also in time, because trance was such a big part of the scene, we had a huge Asian component, like in the
interesting.
age range of like 25 to 65.
Totally.
And that was like 70% of the market.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like for
Interesting.
the Plaza of Nations raves, you'd see like 2,300 people of Asian descent
Yeah.
that were coming down just for like a trance DJ, whether it was
Oh,
like
I'd see literally groups
Yeah.
of Korean kids
Yeah.
in sweatpants, tank tops, and soothers, some colored shit
Yeah.
in their hair. Droves of them.
yeah, with
Yeah.
with mom and dad and grandma and grandpa.
Potentially.
I
Potentially.
I
Grandpa.
had one woman that I became friends with for years. We used to call her Rave Mom. I think her name was Annie, and she was literally Rave Mom to me for like
Yeah.
the first 5 years of my raving career.
Wow.
Like she picked me off the floor at Plaza Nations. I was like, "Oh, you need to party with me," and that was Rave Mom. You know,
What?
yeah. She'd bring me into the circles where they all do their circle dances.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
That
think she
is
was. I
epic.
think she was Vietnamese.
Yeah.
Lovely lady.
Yeah.
Shout out Rave Mama Annie
Shout
if you're
out
there.
Annie, if you're
Yeah.
watching, love ya.
Long Dao, I probably met somewhere around 2007, 2008. Do you know Long Dao?
Never
Oh,
heard of
Oh, you
this
know
person.
Long Dao.
Is he the bottle guy?
The water bottle
Yeah,
man.
the water bottle
Water
guy.
Yeah.
Bottle
Yeah.
He is
At Gorge.
infamous at Gorgamish.
Yeah.
If you go to Gorgamish, look for Water Bottle Man. He is there.
I mean,
Front
sometimes
and
you'll
center.
see him in the club scene for sure. Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
if I've seen him
Yeah.
outside of
Water
that
bottle
place.
I haven't seen him in.
I don't think he
some time.
exists outside of Gorgamish, really. He
I
just
don't know.
materializes there, and then he just.
I've seen him out and about. It's rare for sure, but I've
Yeah,
seen him out.
yeah.
and about for
Don't
sure.
I think I sold tickets to his daughter a couple times. So I saw her
Oh, wow.
outside of the rave scene.
Oh,
Does she
that's
bottle
funny.
too, or?
That's why I said I think it was his daughter. She did not have a bottle on her head.
Yeah.
But you know what? It might have been Dasani. So I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. He was more of a
Oh.
Nestle brand. I don't know.
Yeah.
If
Right.
Yeah, cousins maybe.
Distant relatives.
Where were we?
love
So
that.
yeah, this is like the mid 2000s. I was throwing these, I guess, mini massives.
And you were playing, you were throwing.
Yeah,
you were
so that was the
organizing.
secret. I would organize them because as an excuse to
play
DJ,
them,
Yes.
right? That was it. Like I
Right.
never had any want or desire to be an event producer,
Yeah.
Right.
but it just came to me.
Means to an end.
Yeah.
Yeah, means to an end.
If you want to play, you make
yeah.
an opportunity for yourself.
do 120 hours of work, and then you'll get that 1 hour of
Yeah, no
Yay,
kidding.
I
You
get
know?
to DJ.
120 hours of work is maybe conservative estimate on that
Yeah,
too.
Yeah.
especially for an
yeah.
event
I know,
like
right?
that.
All the promotion aspect,
Mm.
and back in my day, that was like on the street promotion. That
Yeah.
was like literally like handing out flyers to people
Yeah.
after parties.
Answering phone calls.
flyering
Yeah.
cars.
Phone calls, remember those?
Phone calls? That I never did.
Yeah.
Sir, have we told you about our Lord and Savior, Rave?
The Rab?
No, we never did phone promotion.
No, not a phone promotion, but like people bugging you for tickets and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Hard copy
Oh, God,
tickets.
yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that. I
Yeah, for
remember
sure.
that.
Oh yeah.
I don't
when
know.
I was getting into it, my friends still had hard copies, but not that's
Oh,
a
gosh.
distance.
Okay, we'll come back to that because
Yeah,
I got
that's
some
like
great.
10
I've
years
got
in the
some great
future.
anecdotes about that.
Yeah.
So you were a rave god in this time.
I've never called myself rave god. Azim will always be rave god. I was
Okay.
like
Rave god number 2.
I'll call it like a rave jester.
Yeah,
Very-
rave-
Father and
Rave
son.
demon.
Yeah.
Rave demon.
Family.
Like,
Yeah.
Rave demon.
Eventually, I can't remember the exact order of events, but one of my partners went back to Europe, and he had generally been the bankroll because it still costs like $25,000-$30,000 to throw one of these shows at a minimum, right?
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So when you're
wild.
like 20 years old, you
don't
typically
have
don't
that,
have
yeah.
that money.
Yeah.
So when he went back to
Yeah.
Europe, I was kind of at a loss. I didn't know what to do, and then I got.
You guys are making that money back though.
Oh yeah.
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 With,
But you
with
just need the initial,
exactly.
because
The
he would get
initial
all
Yeah,
that
down
back
payment.
plus whatever profit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I get my piece, but it wasn't anywhere.
It wasn't 25 grand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I still had the connections for booking some international acts. Obviously, some I wouldn't touch because they either wouldn't pick up the phone,
Right.
Because phone calls,
Yeah.
or because Azim had those on lock.
Right.
Eventually, one day I did get a phone call from Azim. He asked I wanted to play a show. I went. It was an opening slot, but I said, you know what, whatever, I'll do it. So I'm finally doing a show with Twisted. The doors didn't open until like an hour after. So you know all about this.
Oh,
I've
yeah,
been
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
Oh
So you're just
my
literally
God.
playing to
I played to an
nobody.
empty room. Yeah.
I'm playing to the bartender. Been
But-
there.
That's
But-
crazy.
He comes up to me after the set and says, hey, sorry that happened. Do you want to play a second set with me? And so I did that at like 4 a.m. with back to
cool.
back with
Oh,
the
cool.
with the rave god. You know, as like a
Wow.
20-year-old kid, you're like, oh my god,
Oh my no,
Yeah.
the
this
rave
is
god.
everything. This is everything.
This
you
is
know?
all I've ever
This
wanted.
is what I sold my soul for.
Yeah.
And I did that, and then he's like, hey, I want to make you a resident.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So I became a
big.
resident,
Yeah, you
which was
Huge.
that was the company you wanted to
Yeah.
work for if you were in
Yeah.
the
Back then,
industry.
Twisted was the blueprint of the time.
Yeah, yeah.
It was huge.
Yeah.
It was, had a name
And
behind
Solid
it.
was out there too.
Yeah.
Ben and Mike, like
Yeah.
from Harbor.
Yeah.
But they were specifically targeting like the peony
Yeah.
shows. Like that was their thing. They do
Yeah.
3 or 4 of those a year,
Yeah.
and that was their bread and butter.
Yeah.
Before that, like when Plaza of Nations was still throwing shows or allowing shows, Twisted and Solid were like neck and neck. Like we want this date, we want this date, we want this date, we
That's
want this
right,
date.
yeah.
It was a little bit.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy, yeah. To the
Ooh.
point where like the final massive that ever happened at Plaza of Nations, they had to agree to work together. Like, we can't. Someone's got
The
to do it.
final boss.
Yeah, it was called the grand finale.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Who was headlining that?
Ooh,
can't remember.
I honestly don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could probably dig up old
Probably some
Yeah.
big artists.
20-year-old me didn't
Yeah.
care. He was just like Plasm Nations, I'm there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
probably was a
Yeah.
big artist though.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
I was an ibuprofen.
Yeah.
That was,
Of course.
Yeah.
All theoretical.
yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're playing with the rave god.
So we're playing with the
Started
rave
getting
god.
twisted.
Yeah.
At some point, I can't remember exactly what happened. I ended up with a radio at one of these shows, and I was
Oh,
just
yeah.
put.
Yeah.
I was doing things, and I found myself in a position of authority,
Uh-huh.
and then I just started kind of telling people where to go, that sort of thing. And then I had some suggestions for one of his shows about, production, and then he started bouncing lineup ideas off of me. And then at some point I was at his house or at his apartment downtown. I said, "Hey, do you want to be my event coordinator?" I was like, "Sure."
Yeah.
I'm like, well, of course I want to do that.
Yeah.
Don't.
Why wouldn't I?
That's a
I
dumb
don't.
question.
Why
Of
don't I?
course, I'm literally already doing that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So I ended up with what for me in like my early 20s was like an absolute dream
Yeah, it's a
job.
great job
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
kid, yeah.
Yeah.
The biggest
Yeah.
event company or one of the biggest event
At
companies
that time,
in
yeah.
Vancouver.
Yeah.
Throwing the
Yeah.
raves you want.
Throwing the raves, and then so what happened was
Yeah.
after we kind of figured out like a shorthand. So it wasn't just Twisted wasn't just Azim. There was also Dennis at the time, who basically he's the one who would get all the Asian crowd out. So he was responsible for those 1,500 tickets or whatever it was back then. And then there was Craig, who was like the breakbeat side.
Yeah.
So they were sort of the holy trinity of like, hey, you bring the trance.
Yeah.
I've got the financial backing, and this
Yeah.
person has like the breakbeat
Yeah.
crowd and that sort of thing. So that all kind of like is what made Twisted like such a success, like having those three corners. And then once I came in the mix, he would give me the budget, and he sort of turned over the rave side of things to me. And so I would do all the mini massives. Craig would concentrate on all of like the breakbeat and a lot of like the electro house and those sort of bookings. And then Twisted also had another brand with a gentleman named Savio called Cargo,
Oh,
and
yeah,
that was
Savio.
house.
Yeah.
Wow.
If there was house in Vancouver, that was it. So
Savio,
like the
yeah.
Roger Sanchez,
Yeah.
the Eric Murillos at that time, like Paul Oakenfold as well. And so we had these three pieces of the puzzle, and just turned out shows, just turn them out for years, and everything was fine until it wasn't.
That's happened.
As that
To be honest,
turntables.
like I sometimes think back, I'm like, where did, like I can dial in exactly where the market turned, and I know exactly what happened, but I don't know where the hell Blueprint came from, because
interesting.
like I had maybe I was just like in my own world. I'm like, this age will never change. I never really like cared about doing a SWOT analysis and like figuring out what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, what are the opportunities or threats in the marketplace. I was just like, we'll throw another rave here, we'll do another rave here, we'll call this one this, we'll call this one that, you know?
Just go.
I can't remember exactly too, but I think it was the dubstep era. I think the dubstep era is where they kind of
They were doing dubstep shows.
All
Maybe
the
that
dubstep
was
shows
it.
I went
Maybe
to
that
were
was it.
Blueprint.
Maybe that was it.
Yeah.
But that would have been around the 2010
tens. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
10s
talking
onward.
about like 2008, 2009, because like when I've looked at Blueprint's old branding, I think it says established in 1998, or that they said something about like 25 years or whatever. So I'm like, wait, where were they before? And then like all of a sudden they were everywhere.
Yeah.
They just took over the market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like in a very like
Dominant way.
Well, not, I was going to say like in a very, they were smart about it, and like respect to them for what they're doing. Like all of a sudden they weren't there, and then they were, and then it was everywhere. You know,
they were throwing all the shows. They had all the artists come in. Everything
So
like
in the period of 1 month, we basically lost like 5 of our biggest acts that used to take us through the year. Like we used to be able to throw like one good club show a year for like Armin, one for like Fairy Course, one for Paul Van Dyke. And what happened was we had been trying to negotiate getting all of those acts together and then taking over. Now it's Enzo. At the time, I think it would have been Gossip or Plush or Mars or The Cave or Rage or whatever they were calling it then. And so we had planned for during the Olympics having one of those artists there every night of the Olympics.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden that contract got pulled out from under us, and Blueprint was co-producing the whole thing.
Again.
That's
I-
2010.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
And then I remember Free Dead Mouse show at the park.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
That was
And I was
during
like,
the
yeah,
Olympics.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, where did this, like, what happened? I was
Yeah.
flabbergasted.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know?
interesting.
And then so the blowback from that was like, okay, Ali, this rave thing really needs to work out because the club thing is
It just got
It's
so-
on
yeah.
thin ice.
yeah. It's like,
yeah.
okay. So I'll call it what it was. I milked it for like another 4 or 5 years after
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Until the rave scene for what it was, as it was known, died.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because basically within a year, probably around 2014, everything went from we're okay raving till 7, 8 a.m. to like
Everything's
think-
in nightclubs now.
well
Yeah.
that, or they just cut the hours because
Mm.
I remember I think Solid started the trend because Solid also used to do P&E shows
Yeah.
till 7 in the morning,
Oh,
and
yeah,
all of a
that's
sudden
right.
it was like midnight or 1 a.m.
Oh yeah,
was
I
like,
guess it was
what?
the noise. It was the
Yeah.
noise regulations.
That must have
That's
been
why they cut them off now at
That
11
must have
and
been it.
12 because the
Yeah.
especially the P&E,
Yeah.
the residents, because it's a residential area, were
Yeah.
all fucking up in a roar
That's
about
right.
the sound
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
noise.
Yeah.
Even not just the noise from
Interesting.
the stadium, but the noise after from people walking around and
Yeah.
running around doing stuff.
So that
Yeah.
that
That's
was
that kiboshed that area
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. That
where
ended
we were
things there.
throwing the mini massives like for 700-800 people. That was at the Maritime Labor Center. So that was not a like a community area. It was sort of an industrial area down by the shipyards.
Yeah.
But I think it was like the smaller shows just kind of fell in line with the bigger ones. Like, Kate, no one's staying out till 6 in the morning anymore.
Mhm.
And then those shows just stopped happening.
it, yeah.
So 2014 I think was the last
Yeah.
all-nighter.
Yeah.
Obviously, like now I'm seeing it come back around. All-nighters are happening again, but they're more like you said, like not dirty warehouse, but they're smaller, tighter
They're
warehouse
much more
vibes.
secret, very underground.
Yeah. Well, if they're secret and underground, then they're not sanctioned,
Yeah.
right?
No.
But so
absolutely
the end of sanctioned
Yeah.
shows, I think
Oh, for
the end
sure.
of
Yeah, I think
sanctioned
the
all-nighters.
I think the sanctioned
Yeah.
all-nighters moved to the festival scene
Yeah.
exclusively
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
that point.
and
Yeah.
people's houses.
which was fine by me. Like 2014, that was about the time that I started like being very interested in festivals. I had gone to like EDC, and then a few weeks later, I was invited to play the first Gorge show, Paradiso,
Yes.
which was a big one for me.
I was
That's
and then,
there.
huge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Huge.
Yeah,
So
and then a few weeks
Yeah.
after that, I did my
He was playing at Paradiso and
Yeah.
killed it there
Yeah.
too.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that show go for you?
Oh, it
How'd
was
you feel?
amazing.
Yeah. Would you play?
don't remember.
I remember it was like a mix of like electro and
Yeah,
like bass,
yeah.
house. I don't
Yeah.
know, like all. It was like your sets could be all over the map,
Yeah.
and it was.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
I think like I was the only person. So at that point, like I'm still just a local, right? I'm still local. I've released some music, but I haven't toured extensively.
Yeah.
So I think aside from me, the only other person who has played that venue as a Vancouver local was Nostalgics.
Oh yeah.
So
Interesting.
That's huge.
yeah. So like when
that's
she got
crazy.
that booking a few years ago, I was so freaking thrilled for her
Yeah.
because that's first of all to jump, south of the border,
Yeah.
Yeah.
difficult as a local.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah.
And then to be able to play like a marquee venue like
Yeah.
that, it's,
Yeah. it
I-
was
Well,
huge.
how did you?
Paradiso
Because you
was
kind of made a
so-
name for yourself in Seattle, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah. How did
Ooh.
that
I did.
work? Because I'll tell you a little story from my end.
Let's go.
Me and a bunch of my buddies, including Allya, were going to Lucky, which is the UNC big St. Patrick's Day festival at the WAMU Theater
Yeah.
in Seattle.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Big festival, like it's huge. Like, what would you say? I mean, thousands of people were
That's a 6,000 person room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So big room.
Yeah.
And I had a bunch of buddies that I knew from the States. They were all from my BMW car club days. So all through the mid 2000s, I was hanging out with these guys. And then like one of my buddies, Dan, which I think you met before, he's a shorter guy with a beard. Anyway, you've met him for sure, but he's like, he's
Dan Drahos.
Yeah.
He's not like as involved hanging out anymore.
Yeah.
He's obviously we've all grown up and done other stuff. But anyway, so I'm meeting him at Seattle, and we have VIP tickets. It's me and a bunch of people, and blah blah blah. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm really stoked to see this guy. Allya, he's one of my favorite DJs. Blah 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 blah." And I'm like,
Allya.
"Are we talking about the same guy?"
We know that guy.
Allya? we're here with Allya. He's my buddy. He's in the bathroom or something right now. I don't know. It's just like, we're going to see him in 2 seconds. He's like, you know Allya? I was like,
oh my God, you know
I was, are we talking about the same person? I fucking grew up with this guy.
Yeah.
He tried to make me go to raves. And I said no, not even once.
So he was playing at Lucky 2, which is like I said, it's a big was it UNC or
USC? United States of Consciousness.
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So they were the ones
they were the biggest.
Yeah, they did all the
Washington,
massives in Washington, and when the Gorge opened to doing festivals. They did Paradiso in partnership. Insomniac was a silent partner on that.
Right, yeah.
And then once USC became insolvent due to, I believe it was lack of paying some vendors and some artists,
like
then Insomniac took over.
Yeah, that was most recent after COVID. Yeah.
Well, I think even before COVID.
Just before COVID?
I feel
what are we talking about here?
When did USC? Yeah, it might have been. It's been a while. It's been like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Anyway,
either way,
no bad blood between them and me. I had a lot of fun playing for USC.
So how did they find you? Like how did you get down?
Well, yeah, we're hopping all over the place.
Yeah.
I was wondering how you got big in Seattle, but like. Because like that's where all those shows are, like they're in Seattle too.
Yeah.
So I had done a little bit of promoting for USC in Canada. I had met the owner of USC through another DJ down south, and then I just told him I'd be interested in pushing them into the Vancouver market, because to that point there still wasn't any festival in BC.
Nothing with that
in Vancouver of that caliber, like with 10,000 people, like nothing like that existed.
Yeah, like
probably because of venues.
thing.
I mean, now we have GM Place, which is a viable venue.
But they weren't. It wasn't back.
It wasn't viable then, right? So a lot of recognize that a lot of Canadians probably would go down for those shows if they were given the opportunity.
For sure.
So
I've been down to tons of them within like a 4-year, 5-year period.
They did. What did they do? They did Freak Night for Halloween.
Lucky for St. Patrick's Day. They did. What was the New Year's one? Resolutions.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, they did the Gorge. They did Paradiso at the Gorge, and
they did a lot of club shows. They eventually opened they opened a nightclub in Seattle.
Yeah, I remember going to like tons of club shows for Feed Me, for Above and Beyond, for like so many acts.
Yeah. So that's how I first got down there. But
basically you're just assistants in promotion up here. They learned about you, and
that's how they learned about me. That's not why they booked me. So what actually happened was I ended up getting a call to play like an unsanctioned Tiesto after party after one of their massives.
Oh, sick.
And a local promoter from Seattle saw my set there, loved it, didn't hear anything about it for a while, and then probably about a year later, I had done a booking up here on New Year's for an act that we had been trying to get like in Vancouver for literally years, and no one could nail it down. That was Techno Boy on New Year's, and I just schmoozed the agent so much, really worked on my Dutch. I'd get on the phone at like 3 a.m, and just shoot the shit with him. Threw more money at the problem.
Love you.
And we got Techno Boy, who at the time was very difficult just to get in Vancouver.
Oh, interesting.
And like to the point where Seattle had not even had him. Yeah. And then so this promoter who had recognized me from the show actually came up with a bunch of his friends.
Oh.
And we had the show in like Langley, because it was the only venue we could get for a rave on New Year's Eve.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then
did it do well?
It sold out. There were like 1,500 people in Langley, which is wild.
Wow. Yeah.
And then that promoter recognized me at that show, came up to me at the show, and I kind of remembered him, but didn't really. And he just comes up to me, big sweaty mess, like he's just been raving. It's like 3 in the morning. He's like, that set was so good. I'm gonna book you. What's your number?
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool, man. Here's my number. And I'm like, I'm never gonna hear from that guy again.
Never.
Sure enough, I hear from him a few weeks later, and that just became the like a beautiful friendship.
Yeah.
Still a very good friend today. And he probably booked me like. I probably got booked half a dozen times through him, and every time I'd get booked through him at a rave, there, like at a proper industrial space rave, some other promoter down there would be like, that guy, I want that guy.
Yeah.
And then that circled back around to USC. USC's like, oh, that's the guy that promotes for us.
Yeah.
We should
Wait,
probably.
he's dominating the scene in Seattle.
Yeah.
And he
I love
promotes
that
for us in
guy.
Vancouver.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
We should probably put him on the big stage.
Something wrong
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the long answer. The short answer is hard work and perseverance. So,
Hashtag.
Yeah, that's crazy because
Yeah.
I don't think I ever went to any of those shows in Washington that you did, which is I'm super sad about. But
Yeah.
that's
We could all
fucking wild.
go back in time.
so now that I'm
So-
like working on, not rebranding, but like trying to get back out there and push my music out there, I've started putting together some like little video clips.
Yeah.
So I'll throw some video clips up on
Nice.
Instagram.
Oh
Yeah.
my
The
god!
old ones.
Please
Yes.
go check
Yeah.
his Instagram.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
That's cool.
That
Because
is
it's like I've got my
so-
current music over it, but it's clearly clips of me like 10 years ago. It's like he doesn't look the same. looks like every
about him.
middle-aged DJ in their promo shot. Like what? He's got more wrinkles.
Okay, I say this about lawyers all the time: is they take one headshot
Yeah.
when they're 20 years old, fresh out
Yeah.
of law school.
Or realtors too.
Realtors,
Realtors,
the
yeah.
worst, dude.
They'll
Yeah.
use it for 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll go to a meeting with them 20 years later, and you're
Yeah.
like, wait, is this
Yeah.
It's the HD. Just
Some
turn off the
guy.
HD.
some person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so question that is completely theoretical. Did you have a visa to go work down there, or you just kind of magically
What you have to, okay, so
flitted across the border?
all right guys, so I'm going to tell you
play
a very, very important secret to success,
Hypothetically.
okay?
Hypothetical.
Make sure you have dual citizenship.
Oh. That's right.
That's
We
how
forgot
you
to-
I forgot about that. You forgot
He's
about that.
American.
Yeah,
I
A
forgot about
little
that.
American,
Yeah.
sneaky
Little
American
detail.
yeah,
in
yeah.
our midst.
My parents realized it's not a great country. Come up here.
Yeah.
You know, yeah,
And now I'm
I
a
should
dual.
probably
Yeah.
get that. I
Yeah.
think I can get it, but yeah, that
Super
is.
Yeah,
convenient.
super,
Very.
very inconvenient.
How is it like getting working in the States?
Yeah,
Barely,
yeah.
yes. Barely.
It's
do it,
great
no
until it
problem.
isn't. So the
Yeah.
last time I went over there, when was I just down there? Actually, I went down and saw Dan Drawhost, who we were just
Yeah.
speaking about.
Yeah.
Went down there for the Mia show, and I got like they were questioning me at the border because I hadn't filed taxes. I'm like, well, I haven't been touring the States. I haven't
Yeah.
made any money since
Yeah.
before COVID. It's like, yeah, well, technically as an American, you have to file. And they almost didn't let me in. It's like, can I just go rave and do drugs in my own country, and then I'll do that
And
when
then
I come
promise
back?
I'll come
Yeah,
back
yeah,
and do
yeah,
my
yeah,
taxes.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I swear.
Yeah.
That's
And
funny.
then they
Pinky
said,
promise.
don't joke about doing drugs at the border. I said, who's joking? Let me the fuck, let me in. Let me in.
I'll do anything.
From here.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
This
a
is
joke,
my own
people.
All theoretical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
That's funny.
interesting. That is a good loophole, though,
Yeah.
to actually be an American citizen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that helps. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you play all the shows down there. You're getting big in Seattle, and your Twisted is kind of wrapping up at that point.
At that point, we were strictly doing the club thing.
Okay.
We were running, what was it called then? 560, which is now
Oh.
Levels.
Yeah.
So that was our home base. We're doing shows there Fridays and Saturday nights, sometimes Thursdays as well.
You did that for a while because I remember
We did
I
that for
would
quite a
go-
while.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
that's
yeah.
when I started raving.
yeah.
Yeah, we were there all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like,
I was there
oh,
all the
you-
time.
You
Yeah.
go over to the lineup, and I'd be like, me?
Yeah.
And walk past everybody. I was like,
I was
oh
actually
my
pointing
gosh.
behind you. I was like, no.
No, it's definitely not
Fine
me.
her too.
This
Oh
is
my
a joke.
gosh,
I never
you can
did this. I never picked women out of a lineup. No, usually I was just on the third floor,
Yeah.
just like hiding. Just like,
No,
I'll just see out
because
here.
we knew each other, you
Yeah,
can help me
yeah.
out. But no, I remember going to those shows.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they were
those,
great. So
if
much
you
fun.
never went to them, that was a lot of trance, some house,
Yeah.
and then Craig was booking breakbeat shows there as well. And then
Very
we
fun.
occasionally do like hip hop. If there was a good hip hop artist in town, then we'd be booking them as well.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
E40 rings a bell.
Yeah,
I think
I
that
went
was
to
one
that
of
show,
them.
yeah.
Yeah, you would. You
Yeah.
would.
Yeah.
I still like hip hop a little bit.
The good old days.
The
Yeah,
old, the
yeah.
old stuff. Yeah.
So all right, let's talk about Mazen for a second. So I can't. At what point did you finally wake up? Was it cascade
and
and like?
smell- the
It was so it was a
coffee.
little slow. So in the late 2000s, 2007,
Yeah.
8, 9,
Yeah.
I had really started to listen to a lot of the Ministry of Sound.
The dubstep stuff?
No, house music.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
vocally,
Yeah.
like the Put Your Hands Up for
Yeah.
Detroit, blah blah blah. That whole scene.
Right, right.
And I was starting to really get into that, like on my own.
Okay.
And like I said, I dabbled with the stuff in the past with
You got the very end of Plasm Nations. Yeah. But you
No,
were
but
kicking
like,
and screaming.
but with
Twisted?
much music. What's it called?
Oh, the Electric
Electric-
Circus.
Electric
Yeah,
Circus,
yeah.
Yeah.
And like I listen to like a lot of other, you could call it quasi dance music, with like Madonna, for example. Like a lot of her music has like dance music
Right.
elements to it, like
Yeah.
electro and house and
Yeah.
stuff like that too.
Okay.
So there was some stuff I liked. It's just the stuff that really turned me off was that hardcore, like repetitive music.
Yeah.
You know, the stuff that attracted to me was the vocal dancey stuff.
Yeah.
So I didn't know, you know, and at the time earlier in those days, my cousin Rob, so he was
Rob
doing,
Risk.
Rob
Yeah,
Risk.
yeah,
So
yeah.
he was doing house music nights. I think it was every Thursday at Ginger 62. I can't remember exactly the date, but it might have been Fridays, might have been Saturdays.
Yeah.
But like we're talking deep house.
Yeah,
Like very like loungy deep house. And he would
Chill.
get into Afro house a little bit later too, which is what his specialty is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he would definitely like, you know, so he was trying to bring that into the scene too. So I'd go out there to support, but it was still a little bit, the music was a little too chill for me to like, enjoy all the time.
Yeah. I think 2010 to 2013, I think that was around the time of our Ginger 62 residency, and that's when we were bringing like a lot of the head candy DJs.
Yes.
Yeah. So around that probably that same time that you were starting to wake up.
Yeah. So the big thing for me actually was when I moved in with Kyle, and that was very early 2011, like literally January 2011.
Yeah.
And he was into this thing that I had just started to hear about called dubstep. And he would put on Rusko and like some other, I can't remember the other ones, but Rusko was the first electronic music show that I actually purchased a ticket to go to. And that was at the Commodore. And it was one of my favorite shows I'd ever been to up until that point. It's actually, I mean, just from memories alone, it was like so much fun. And I was like hooked immediately to that genre. So, but dubstep led me into listening to things like the big rooms stuff at the time was like the electro trance stuff. So like Above and Beyond and Artie and like all that kind of shit. I started to really like that sound too. Like I think Tiesto was also playing that kind of stuff, and you know,
Cascade,
all the big, it's Swedish House Mafia, you know, Afrojack. I loved Afrojack. I used to listen to a lot of Afrojack. Yeah. That was all starting. I was all starting to jump into all of that within the first 6 months of 2011. Like I was doing nothing but discovering music to an nth degree at that point.
What a golden age! What a time to be in.
It was such a golden age. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. You would literally. I used to describe between that period in time in early 2011 till about late 2013 to mid 2014, I would go out 3 to 4 nights a week. And every single time I went out, it was a 10 out of 10 experience. Like literally the biggest acts every weekend, multiple times a weekend, just insane what was going on. And that was when Blueprint really took off, because they were like booking everybody. Like Matt Ochard and all those guys were just finding
Calvin
all these
Harris.
acts. They were just grabbing all these acts that like as soon as they made it even a blip, they bring them in. Like it was just insane. You know, I remember seeing Skrillex at Celebrities. I remember seeing Nero at Celebrities. I remember seeing so many artists. Like Feed Me at Celebrities. Huge artists. Huge at like these shows at like Celebrities and Commodore and stuff like that. And then they bring them to these huge massives at the Pacific Coliseum or whatever, and these shows would sell out too. You know, and we were doing.
What's wild is like there was such a wealth of new talent coming in the scene, and people were so excited about it. Like this is also the height of like David Guetta throwing like house stuff on the radio. That like all those shows. Did well. Like 3-4 promoters could be throwing a show in town the same weekend, and they'd all be packed, and everyone would just be stoked.
It was insane.
You know?
Absolutely insane.
The frenzy.
So I started listening to so many genres. It started with dubstep, but I started listening to like electro, started listening to drum and bass, started listening to trance, I started listening to house, then I started to move into like garage and deep house a lot, and then I was a little bit later to the progressive game, but the progressive trance stuff I was already listening to, but I didn't get into like progressive until I think 2012, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then 2012, you know, when I was younger in the mid 2000s and the mid to late 2000s, Lucas used to always play Cascade in the car, and I'd like it for about an hour, and then I'd be like, okay, let's listen to hip hop again. You know what I mean? Like we would listen to it, and I'd like it, and then I'd like it. So like when we went to EDC, which is I want to say it might have been the first trip. It could have been the second one. It probably was the first one. So we went to EDC, which is in 2012. We were this big group of people, and to make a long story short, the vote was we were going to go see Cascade, and I was like, I don't want to see Cascade. And you know me with crowds, like, you know, we went to the stage. The stage that Cascade was playing at was one of the bigger stages. Obviously, it's fucking Cascade.
Yeah.
And it was a sardine can.
Yeah.
Like, you could not get it. Like, we were trying to shove, and we were like in the corner, in the back. And I shit you not, I say we were like all standing like this together. Not like we couldn't dance. We were all standing like this.
Not even fun.
Not even fun.
Probably
and he started his
least stoked person to be there. You.
Yeah, the least stoked person to be there. Literally, I was like, I will shoot myself to stop me from being there. So
I'll do anything.
And I was mad at the crew we were with. They were being there's some drama, whatever. I was just like, the whole situation was a recipe for disaster.
So over
And then Cascade started playing, and within minutes, I was like, this is one of the best sets I've ever heard in my life. And we stayed for the whole thing, like an hour and 40 minutes. It was like, I shit you not. Not only was it one of the best sets I've ever heard in my life, I was able to find a link to it later on. I've probably listened to that set 1,000 times.
I remember that set. Yeah.
And if there's anything that you want to know...
I like memorized it. Like I played it 1,000 times. It was like so good. So that was like, okay. And then at Paradiso, I think that same year, or could have been the second year we went, they had Deadmau5, and I don't know if it was the same year, but they had Eric Prydz as well. And
Eric Prydz and Deadmau5 in the same show?
I think
probably
it was
different nights.
I would
different nights. Yeah. I think it was different nights, but yeah.
Because they're both headliners.
and I again, I didn't listen to progressive really that much at the time, but I dabbled in it, and those sets were mind blowing. Like mind blowing.
I bet.
And I just started to really get into that as well. So I mean, within a 2-year period, I went from listening to almost nothing but like maybe house, like electro house, from Ministry of Sound to like all these genres all at the same time. You know, and it was, and I still listen to R&B at the same time. I still listen to rap at the same time. But like,
who has the time?
Like just in like, I was listening to music nonstop. Now I listen to podcasts nonstop. So it's like a different world. But I was listening so much music at the time. I don't know.
And if there's anything that you need to know about Mazen, is when you find a good mix, you will listen to that on repeat.
All the time.
Hours,
and
days and days.
That's how I
months
consume. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
That's how I consume electronic music in general, is in set form. I don't have that's why starting DJing was tough for me, because I didn't have a music catalog. I had a set catalog.
Yeah, well, you
huge
didn't
set
know
catalog.
who was playing it, what the song was called. You
no
just
idea.
know that you liked it within this specific.
That's right.
And
So
then people were blending things together.
So like knowing how a good set sounds and its structure and all this stuff, I knew. Tracks, no idea. So that was where I was, behind the 8 ball, was in the music catalog. So if I was collecting music that whole time, oh my God, I'd be killing it right now with how much music I'd have.
So on that note, you talk about absorbing music in set form. I can't listen to a DJ set anymore unless I'm there. But I try as much as I can to avoid listening to DJ sets.
Wow.
In person or just?
Oh, just
to like outside of festivals.
Yeah.
Because when I'm at a festival, I want to be present and like I want to be there for that set and just like not be on my phone, nothing.
For
like
sure.
I take next to no photos or videos at festivals. I'm always asking him like, Dad, you have that video of me doing silly things? I'm that guy, because I take no footage on holidays or anywhere. But I want that set to be special. I want it to like hit me right here in the heart or hit me in the chest with that bass, and I want it to feel unique. One thing I used to find when I'd follow artists around or I'd like listen to their sets, after a while, as a touring artist, your sets kind of sound similar. You know how songs are going to link up with each other. It's like, oh, they played this one, they're probably going to play this one. So listening to sets became very much like, oh, you almost feel like you've read the book to some extent.
You've seen this movie before.
There's some DJs who have routines. It's like, okay, that's your routine. Like maybe they've got like a 4-deck mix going on. It's like, that's fair. Like I don't expect you to wow me with that every time.
To do it different every single time.
But
that's a lot to ask.
So that's one of the reasons I intentionally don't listen to DJ sets outside of festivals or music events. And also because I used to find that when I would do that incessantly, it would affect my DJing. It would affect my tastes.
Oh, I see.
And if I wanted to be the exact same DJ as one of my idols, great.
Sure.
If I want that same playlist, if I like that track, I like that track. If I want it to do the same thing, that's what I would do. But I don't. So I intentionally try not to. If I hear good music, I'll find out what it is. But I'm not one to like listen to DJ sets in my off time. Of other people, of my own, I listen to them incessantly, and I just tear them apart. Like I could have done that better. I could have done this better. Less so now. Like I don't record a lot of my sets now. But that used to be like one of the things I'd overanalyze. Because you just
I really find I can't listen to my own sets back because I do the same thing.
I can't listen to my own. I can't listen to my own podcast. I won't be able to hear this.
I haven't listened to any of my podcasts. I'm forced to because I have to edit myself. I'm so sorry. But no, I really find that I don't listen to DJ sets at all. I don't really go out and listen to DJ sets even when I'm out in person. Like I want to experience it. I'm usually there in person, but I find the same thing too because I don't want to take what they have something special and put it towards my own. So I'll listen to exclusively Spotify. I won't even go to like the SoundCloud or anything like that. I think that's a bit.
SoundCloud's one I still try to go to, not for sets, but for discovering new music. One of the things I'm trying to do less and less of is take stuff from Spotify. So here's the thing about Spotify.
Like,
I don't take anything. I don't take anything from Spotify.
That used to be part of it. It's like, yes, Spotify is music for mass consumption, so everyone has access to it. But think about this. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy or cycle. You tell Spotify what you like. It develops an algorithm for you.
That's right.
And it spits you out more of the same. At a time in our lives when there's 10,000 tracks of that more of the same coming every week.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you ever want your musical taste to evolve, but you just keep hearting the same genre or the same artist or the same, you like this artist because of this artist, you're just going into an infinite loop of liking that. Say, if you're a house guy and all you want to do is listen to house, great, congratulations. You're gonna have house forever. But if you ever want to get out of that loop and listen to anything else and like change your musical taste, Spotify is not going to do that for you. Well, unless, of course, you're doing one of those weird kitty cat midnight 2 a.m. study playlists. Like, what are these playlists?
Weird as fucking
It's
names.
the weirdest
They're so
AI-generated names. Bizarre.
Well, I'll tell you why I do listen to Spotify, and it is for that reason alone, because I want to listen to that just groovy music that will put me into a good workflow. But then when I'm actually DJing, I want to be able to hear all the nuances and all the different things. So it's a completely separate genre that I listen to. So I do it quite intentionally. But also, what else was I going to say? Oh, I also don't Shazam. I feel like very similar to like DJ sets. I don't like to Shazam other people's DJ stuff because I don't want to play what you've played. I don't want to repeat that. You've played it. That's your thing. People are very particular about their USBs and what they have on their USB. I don't want to go,
Totally.
Every once in a while, I'll go up behind the decks. What do you got going on? Oh, okay, that's interesting. Maybe I'll check out the brand or like the artist if I want to go.
I'm a big Shazam whore.
You are? Yeah, I know some people.
I'm the same way.
DJs that are.
And it's not necessarily for music that I want to incorporate in my set. Sometimes I just like good music. Because I love drum and bass. Sorry if you don't like drum and bass. I can't help you with that.
Can't be friends.
You should probably figure it out. I don't have an intention of becoming a drum and bass DJ. I enjoy playing some drum and bass once in a while in a set. It's good to change a mood, a vibe. But I'm going to Shazam drum and bass. That's probably my most Shazam genre because it's not a genre that I live in. Like I predominantly live in house music.
The thing is if I'd imagine that if you were in the genre that you live in, you're discovering music so far before it comes out to everybody else that there's no point in Shazamming it. You've already heard the song before it's Shazammable. So that makes sense. I'm not in that. So for me, Shazam is like sometimes the first time I hear the song is when it's being played. So I have to try and Shazam it.
Also drum and bass, when you Shazam drum and bass, half the time they're playing like double drop. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't actually like this song or
Oh,
that song.
yeah,
I like
yeah.
those two
The two
together.
together, yeah.
Those actually
The
don't exist in,
mashup.
in
Yeah.
nature.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
you have to create it
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah. Nowadays, I don't even do that. Now, if I want new drum and bass, I just I follow Koji's Instagram, and he's got new drum and bass like all the time. I was
Oh
like,
my
good.
God,
I
he's
need
got
some for my running
Yeah.
playlist.
Yeah.
And he's got exquisite taste in drum and bass.
Yeah.
He really does.
Yeah,
Yeah, check out Koji. We've got a podcast on him.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
awesome. So, I'm sure you've got more to the story.
What year is it? Where,
Where are we
Where
going?
are we?
where
So
are we
before
right
we
now?
move from the 2014 into the present, I
Yeah.
want to touch on the Twisted Life for a
Okay.
minute. And what were kind of 3 things, just give me off the top of your head almost, 3 things that you really learned or brought into the company that you really felt like made either a difference, was the reason why you were so valuable to that company, what you wanted to kind of grow that company to, or the scene too, per se.
So I would say perspective, because I still am technically the youngest person there. At that, now we're going back like,
Yeah.
What, 10 plus
At
years
least
ago.
10 years
Yeah.
ago. if
So
not
I was
more,
still, and I've always prided myself even today as being very much having my finger on the pulse of music. That's what a good talent buyer does. And that's essentially what I was for Twisted, was a talent buyer. So being able to, like, when someone pitches a name to me and just being able to know, like, in 5 seconds, like, yes or no, right? Without,
Yeah.
and just having, if they're not
That
already front of
knowledge.
mind, just having that music
Yeah.
knowledge. So I would say that's something I brought to the table. Also, just the macro perspective on production, because when we were doing like the all age massives, there's a lot of moving parts that you have to deal with there. Azim was a big help in the beginning in interfacing with the city. Like, he was definitely the more professional of the bunch in that regard. You don't joke with the city. You just don't joke.
No.
Know your audience. So he was very good at like reining me in that regard. And helping me mind my P's and Q's, especially as a young person, right? Like you find yourself in a position with like quite a bit of power, and you get a little bit like
A little frou-frou
yeah,
on the tail.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Especially
Yeah.
as the not the coolest kid in high school.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my
You
God.
go from not the coolest kid in high school to one of the coolest people in the city.
You're talking to the city?
right?
Yeah.
And then Star Wars got popular again too, so it's like,
Yeah.
wait a minute,
Oh,
he knows
double
he knows about the other
whammy.
thing. Hold on, it's coming, all comes back around.
Yeah.
I tell you, just kids, if there's anyone watching, just do what you love. Just keep your head down, do what you love.
Yeah.
Eventually, if it's meant to be cool, it'll be cool. I didn't become a DJ to be cool. DJing was the most uncool thing ever when I started DJing. It got cool, and it got cool at a time when I was pretty good at it and going places with it.
Yeah.
And when Star Wars got cool, man, I already knew like every character in Star Wars. And when Star Wars really got cool, it's like, well, now
Now you're super
now
cool.
I'm super cool,
The
right?
super cool is
yeah,
super
yeah.
cool.
I probably should have started a YouTube channel about it years
Totally.
ago. Never did,
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, you would have been.
Yeah.
You would be better.
Mr. Beast
my head's
level.
not in it anymore, but like if we had started up a YouTube channel for Star Wars like 10 years ago, or
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my
yeah.
oh my
goodness.
god, or like a podcast.
I know.
They wouldn't
12
even
years ago
talk
for
to
Star
me.
Wars?
Is
Yeah.
what would
Yeah.
be.
Oh, that would have been huge. The amount of debating we would
Yeah,
have done about
yeah.
minutia,
All right?
it would have been so asinine. I
Oh my
can't.
gosh.
That's
That would have been so good.
That's literally why I'm here.
Yeah.
Eventually, the plan is eventually you and I
Yeah.
on Mondays we're just gonna do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I am not the target audience, and I know that. She's got talents elsewhere, kids.
Yeah.
I swear.
Oh man! Anytime you guys want to talk science fiction,
Yeah, exactly.
That's the next
yeah,
podcast.
let's do
Day
it.
after this.
That's the after show.
That's the afters of the afters.
When all the ladies have gone to bed.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I get my beauty rest. They talk
We nerd
about.
it out.
Yeah, So that was
Yeah.
2 things. What's the third thing?
Third thing.
I would just say passion, because in any industry, after you've been in it for a while, some things become a little bit same, a little bit lackluster. So
Yeah.
at that point, I think I still had like the I was invigorated for the music, especially that period you and I were just discussing, like the 2010 to 2014 era,
Popping
new
off,
genres,
booming.
new artists coming up left and
Yeah.
right, and then the whole industry doing pretty well,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Yeah.
we went from electronic music prior to 2010 being like not niche, but it was popular in Europe, starting to get popular in North America.
Yeah, yeah.
So like within 2 years, Skrillex
Dominating.
being the first electronic music act to win a Grammy.
Yeah.
You know,
Wild.
Yeah.
Best
That
New
is
Artist, I
wild.
think, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To like going from like, I remember seeing his show in Vegas on a Wednesday in 2011, where half the crowd didn't even know who he was, didn't even like dubstep, to within 10 months, his music was on commercials on TV or playing in sports stadiums.
That must have been wild for him.
Within 10
I would love
months.
to talk to him.
Yeah, it was insane. So
That would be cool.
so we're talking about an explosive time in history. You know, from like Swedish House Mafia playing shows that were 150,000 people. You know, from like just making songs and playing at clubs.
So at this
a few years
cool
before that.
pivotal time,
It's
you're so
insane.
invigorated.
Yeah, like Afrojack playing, doing production on Fruity Loops in 2010 to literally producing for every big pop artist 2 years later. Like
Wild.
insane. Like the growth was absolutely parabolic. Like yeah, it was
Chasing
Wild.
Status doing Rihanna's album.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
insane
it's
stuff.
insane
Yeah.
stuff.
So
Yeah,
cool.
like it's
Yeah.
David Guetta being in everything.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like Tiesto selling out like every single festival possible. It's insane. Like it was just like the amount of like growth was in such a
hype,
short period of time.
Frenzy,
Insane.
excitement.
Yeah.
So it was literally the golden age of music. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Electronic music for
Electronic
sure.
music,
Yeah.
It was also sort of the end of an era because, so like, social media was around. It was a means by which we promoted shows. It was a heck of a lot easier than flyering cars and doing all that sort of thing. But at some point, like I used to get a lot of emails from agencies, you know, and they would always say like, hey, this artist's biggest hit is this. Here's their last after movie or their last festival set. That's the kind of stuff you'd get from agencies. And then one day it switched to, hey, this is their Spotify numbers. This is their Instagram followers. These are their metrics.
Yeah.
I was like,
Wait, what?
what's happened here?
Yeah.
Because it used to be that like you'd use your instincts to be like, this is music that's going to sell in my market. This is a person that will do well in this venue on this night, you know, with this other headliner, this co-headliner.
Yeah.
And that's how you book shows.
Yeah.
And then it switched to like, hey, so the computer said that they have 25,000 listeners in your market, ergo you should book them. Like, but what's their big song? No.
Music doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Here are
the numbers say they're going to do well here,
Yeah.
so this is the price you're going to offer me. Like,
Yeah, it's weird.
Interesting
Yeah.
switch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's where I kind of like lost a little bit of my luster. Now I feel like it's kind of gone the other way, and that people are willing to take chances on artists, be like, no, I know this person can do like 200 hard ticket sales or that sort of thing. But for a while, like that's all agencies were doing, was just sending like back metrics, being like, this is why you should get them here. It's like, oh, that's not numbers driven entertainment. It's not something that
analytics art.
Yeah.
exactly.
Lame.
Yeah,
AI, it's
right.
computer,
Analytics over art. So weird.
Yeah.
So weird.
Funny how that
Yeah.
happens.
And then COVID happened, and it's like, okay, well, I guess that was fun.
Yeah.
Because in the midst of all this, we also were doing not Twisted, but I worked with a couple friends and we were doing a festival. You guys had been there many times.
Couple of times.
A
The
Life
Awakened.
A
Yeah.
casual
Yeah.
little festy.
Yeah,
besties.
casual little other brand we were working on the whole time.
Yeah.
And that came about from like my love of festivals and having met a couple like-minded individuals, and they had thrown a camping event, I think 1 year before, and then they booked me to play their second year. And I saw, I was like, you know what, this could really be something. We should do this. Stupid idea. A lot of work. Horrible.
Didn't meet our whole group of friends.
Definitely didn't meet all of our lifelong
start
friends.
all of our
Yeah.
careers.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Oh.
Can you call this a career?
Okay, so what we're talking about is camp. It was called originally Camping S2E12
Yeah,
series
yeah.
turned
Great
into
SEO.
Yeah.
It turned into Awakened,
Life Awakened
Awakened Festival. Yeah.
festival, and then
Yeah.
from there they turned it into more of a brand.
Yeah, yeah.
You had boat cruises, you
Yeah.
had clubs, and this is the time that I can start talking.
Yeah. I was there.
I was there. So I was there from 4.0
Yeah.
onwards, pretty much.
So
and
was that 2015, 2016?
15, yeah, is when 14 is when I met you guys. 15 is when I you suckered me in. And
Yeah.
I
Well, we
couldn't
tried to
leave.
ditch you the year before. I was like, I don't know.
I know. I'm still here. What can I say? She doesn't let go.
Yeah.
But it was great, and we could spend hours talking on that. But
I know we could, but
Well, I'll have to have you back. But give me a little rundown of just like some of your highlights. Putting together and throwing and running. Well, you weren't the soul. You weren't. What was your position in Life Awakened?
I would
In
say
the
production manager, but also I would say CFO, because financing was a big part of it.
Because you were running budgets at Twisted.
Yeah.
Interesting. You brought all that knowledge into.
Yeah, I was
Life
running
Awakened.
budgets at Twisted specifically for the all night stuff, and then from that, you fall in love with Excel or Google Sheets. You're like, oh my god,
Documents.
come here, baby. Tell me about your hidden formulas.
Pressing buttons, clicking numbers.
Yeah, so no, I happen to be good with the numbers side of things, and so I took on the role of CFO,
pants.
and then just figured out how to.
Not that we like to talk about real life, but what do you have a background in numbers in real life?
Do you have a background in numbers?
Tell me more.
No, not at all. So
Oh.
I will tell you this: having thrown shows since I guess 2004, that area, like I was already doing that stuff. My parents were not happy that I wasn't in school, so they did push me to go to choose something at school. So I said, okay, fine, business. So from there, that going to BCIT, I understood the theory behind the stuff that I was already kind of putting into practice. I'm like, okay, here's the theory behind all the business decisions that you make.
Yeah.
And then it gave me a little bit more background. Like, okay, this is marketing.
Especially back then, if
macro,
you were going to take a
microeconomics.
throwaway course, business was the one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just stayed at that school as long as possible so they wouldn't bother me. I think I did like 3 years there of study, and I took some courses that I really enjoyed over there, like negotiation, public speaking, like anything I could throw in like that could make things interesting and get me away from just like book learning and like actually talking.
Into the
to class.
practical
Yeah,
side of
exactly. And of
things.
course,
Yeah.
recruiting other ravers the whole time. Like, hey, that person would be
course.
good, to working with us.
That is a huge pool and a whole network. That's how
Yeah.
Silva got her start too. Is she went to university,
Yeah.
university parties. There's a huge
Yep.
potential
there's
there.
a common thread there for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Didn't
you're
Silva
bringing-
start at one of our parties too?
For
in
sure.
2014? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think A Life Awakened really, I mean, I was joking about this, but I sort of wasn't. Like, it kind of started all of us.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
played there as one of my couple of first shows.
Right.
At
Pika.
Gorgamesh. Yeah, Pika
Yeah.
was also playing at 4.0.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, I talked to her about that. That was great.
Mikel Ferreira used to play those
He
shows.
plays at Celebrities every once in a while now.
Gellert, Nightcraft has played those
Nightcraft.
shows. Yeah,
Dana, Zeta played there.
that's right. So it was a big melting pot.
It was.
Because I still see.
Because I think it was a lot. I think to boil 7 or 8, 10 years
Yeah,
of this festival down into, it was just really people who are interested in getting into the scene.
Yeah.
Finding like-minded individuals and people, finding that
we
community.
used to all party together.
You all would party together, but then some
Let's
people would be interested in the DJing aspect, or the producing, or the lighting, and
or events throwing,
and there would be so much willingness to have a lot of people involved.
Yeah.
No,
everyone there has so much passion for the scene.
Yes.
And it's so wonderful when I run across one of them, and it's great to see Sam, the governor. He's still playing shows at Harbor.
Yeah, Coltrane.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's another one.
Yeah.
It's
And all these kids play. Well, Coltrane plays a lot more regularly, like Governor.
Yeah.
Governor.
Yeah.
Governor does, but everybody's so passionate about it. Yeah.
And it's been wonderful. So since COVID happened, we haven't really gone back to doing that because that was a big financial strain for us.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Lot of money that we could not recoup So it's, and after we were all told to pivot, you know, Trudeau told us like, well, go do other things for the next year, maybe 2 years. We're not going to tell you. We'll leave you in limbo.
Yeah.
So myself and the other partners kind of had to go and do the things, and we've talked about coming back to it, but honestly, it's to get back to the level we were it would almost be like starting over, you know, because we used to have 700 people at those things.
Yeah, I think
Easy,
in
yeah.
the heyday,
And now
it was definitely
those smarty pants. 2 years of no raving, and they had kids, they got jobs, they got careers, they got clean, they got sober. Like, what are you doing, guys? What are you doing? We needed
adults?
you.
No.
We needed you.
Let's go
Come
back
on.
5 years in time.
No.
No.
Super happy for everyone. Like, you
Yeah.
know, now this Friday, instead of going to hang out with you at Celebrities, I'm going to go to the park and go hang out with
Children?
Shane and nieces. That sounds really weird when you put it that way, but yes.
Honey, no.
Our friends' young
the
children,
kids,
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very happy to see that everyone's had some like form of personal growth.
Yeah,
And honestly,
and
it's been great to sort of pass the torch down to the companies that came up and held things together during COVID, because we weren't in a position to be like, well, we're going to throw illegal shows. If we were to throw illegal shows, then we would lose whatever goodwill we had with like the city of Vancouver, right? But for an upstart company, you know, no names obviously, but for the upstart companies that during that time would get together and just say, no, screw you, we're going to throw a show.
Do it.
Because,
Renegade style.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, amazing.
Yeah.
And to see that what those companies have grown into in the last 4 years has been, it's like,
Yeah.
it's like a little bit of
we talked
yourself.
about
You're
it.
like,
really
yes,
is.
like,
It is passing the torch
It
in
is.
that way
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
because the people are here. You built those foundations
Yep.
of like a little startup festival. You've put the groundwork down
Yep.
for other people to pick it up, and they really have.
no credit. No credit. If one person got a good idea from attending one of our shows, great. But you know, we thought we were upstarts when we were doing stuff like that, and we weren't. And I know that because
For sure, 'cause
I was
you were the
15,
Yeah.
doing
you know,
the-
years ago. Like I was 15, 14 years old, getting picked up off the floor at some warehouse party, being like, "This is amazing. I don't know who's doing this, but this is great." You know?
This is great. I want to do it again for myself
Exactly.
someday.
Kids running around in the dark.
Yeah.
You know?
Wearing things.
Yeah.
Stuffing things.
Yeah, exactly. So,
It's a good full circle moment, though.
Yeah.
Like, I think looking back at the scene now and looking at what you guys had and started and passing along too, like.
And I hope to keep seeing it. You know, like the scene is constantly in flux. Things are constantly changing, constantly moving. I'm always excited to see what the next crew is doing.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Kumo, because what they've done in the last what has it been 4 years has just been it's been
Astronomical.
so cool.
Yeah.
It's been so cool, like what that whole crew has done.
Yeah.
Like such a warm bunch of humans. Just absolutely killing it. And then all their free drum and bass shows. Like I said, I'm a big drum and bass fan.
Yeah.
So to see what they're doing with free drum and bass shows, I think they've got one coming up in a few weeks.
I think so, or it just happened or something like that.
Well, the thing too that I've just realized with this
couple of them.
conversation about talking about literally going down the past is that like really appreciate what's happening in the moment, because like there's a lot of things that we've talked about in the last hour and a half or so, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
We'll never ever see anything like those things again.
Yeah.
You know, like just for example, we're
Once
talking
in a
about some of the
lifetime.
ALA shows, like the campsites that we used to do those parties at literally don't exist.
Yeah.
No, it's all clear.
They don't
cut.
exist, or
Yeah.
they literally have removed any capability of
Yeah.
ever throwing
The Cabbage
any-
Patch Field is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they
the
banned us.
Harrison Lake location.
Oh yeah.
They won't do shows there anymore.
Ever
No.
again.
Everything in Hope literally washed away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like Plaza of Nations completely changed ownership, money time, like the regulations, all that stuff. Like, so just really appreciate what's happening in the moment.
Yeah.
You know, like, for
And
example, I was talking
support new ventures.
Yeah.
Support
Like
new
what's
ventures.
going on with was it 236? Is that the new warehouse location? 236?
Oh yeah.
Industrial.
Industrial.
From Vantech.
Yeah.
That didn't exist.
Incredible.
That takes me back to that 2000 era vibe, that warehouse,
That's
you know,
right.
Yeah.
blood rave type vibe.
Yeah.
If you're not supporting that venue, go support it. I don't care whether it's a techno show, whether it's
Just give them your money.
you know, whether it's like a what do you call it, like a fetish show, just go.
Yeah.
Okay, just go. Like check that place out because it's freaking cool.
It's amazing.
And if a cool venue exists, go support it. You know, music is almost secondary. Just go with
Yeah,
friends.
it's
It is what you
honestly-
make of it.
Yeah, it's honestly like these these memories and these situations that we'll never see again. It's just like, I feel so blessed to be a part of all the things that I was seeing and going to in that moment. And I was really definitely grateful in the moment, knowing that, like people would say I was going out too much. I'm like, look, every single time I go out, it's a 10 out of 10 experience.
Yeah.
So why would I not do that? I started to slow down my partying in 2014 because it's like, now every 2 out of 3 is a 10 out of 10 experience. Or maybe 1 out of 3 is a 10 out of 10 experience, to the point where that started to go away. And it's just like, that there was a little bit of a period of time there where the music was pretty bad. It was really bad. Like the Animals Gate and like, just a lot of things. Like the big room scene was starting to become really terrible. Like it was, and that was dominating the music scene at the time. Anyway, won't talk about that too much.
I got into it, and it's only gotten better from there. So
Yeah.
I honestly think right now,
up.
I think honestly right now we're in another beginning of golden age of music, because there's so much good music coming out right now. There's so much
many
talent.
talented artists.
Yeah.
It's and the stuff that's popular is very good music right now, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So like we're in another like really good time, 10 years later. But yeah.
Also from an artist standpoint, like there's never been more cool freaking homegrown talent than there is right now in this city.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we've talked
And
about
we've got so much. I'm sure you've had quite a bit of it on your show.
Yeah.
Obviously Sibs comes to mind, but also house people like Shane Patrick Riley, who's just an amazing local. Always love his stuff.
So talented. We'll have to have
Paul
him on.
Frank for like the minimal deep tech side of things. Dreama for techno. Obviously Koji for drum and bass. You've got acts like Guess Who for dubstep, Conka for like the more deep dub stuff. Like just a plethora of like good locals,
Zeta killing it with the progressive scene.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm excited to hear what she does with her productions. Like the stuff that she's shown me so far with, I think it's with Bryn. It's cool.
Insane.
It's cool.
Insane.
So like I'm excited to see more of that talent get nurtured.
Shout out to Bryn, by the way. It's his birthday today.
Happy birthday, Bryn Leo.
Yeah.
Northern House, friend of the show.
Yeah.
That stuff. Yeah.
Definitely.
Honestly, isn't everyone a friend of the show at this point?
I mean,
if you're not a friend
of the show, become a friend of the show. Yeah. That's how you jump the queue. Say, I'm friends with him for 20. They're booking till next year. Well, technically, I guess we were supposed to do this last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
That's okay.
But I think here's an interesting perspective that also I think is really cool too about Vancouver specifically, and why Vancouver's so interesting is because it's happened in Europe, because the scene has grown in Europe and they've done all these waves. And then the scene has done all these waves in the eastern part of Canada. And I think Vancouver is one of the last cities kind of in North America coming all this way in order to have their golden age.
We're the last stop.
We're the last stop. So what you have seen in Europe of how cool everything is and how much the music has changed, and also similar to East Coast, like we have that potential to have that here. And I'm really hoping that we can have that. And I think it's going that way.
It's funny that it still works that way, because like before that literally happened because of geography. Like it took time for music to travel.
Literally.
Now music travels instantaneous. Like we can watch a live stream of a festival from Europe, with like 30 seconds delay.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me that our Renaissance is still behind everyone else's.
Yeah.
Because now we have instant gratification through the internet.
Yeah.
So like, why are we the last stop?
I'm not sure if it's I think there's still, I think at the crux of BC especially is we're still a bass province at heart. So like, a lot of our big famous artists are from BC are bass dubstep or bass artists.
About Excision and Downlink.
Exactly. So I think our roots are so deep in that, in the same way that Dutch music's, the trance and like, electro scene and all that stuff, or electro house, and like, same thing for like, what's another example?
No clue.
Yeah. But anyway, like, just like countries have their like roots in certain things that they just happen to be big in.
Right.
And it
BC's just still a little baby,
It is too, yeah.
We are a young city by comparison.
We are a young city.
Very young.
Yeah, we are a young city. We're also low population.
Yeah. We're not we're cool. I
We're
swear.
Promise you
We're
were
trying to be cool.
We're trying to be cool,
Yeah.
you know, but I think we don't have much history here.
Yeah.
Is also the thing.
Yeah, and that's
too,
what I'm saying. Like our biggest roots within the last 15 years
with
that we're
regards to
famous for
electronic
is
music.
bass music. So
Yeah.
you know, I think that's why when it comes to bass music, we have a lot of stuff that's like literally famous around the world. Like Shambhala, for example, is a bass festival primarily.
And voted
Well,
number one
it's
music festival.
funny.
In North
It is
America.
considered a bass festival, but
Oh, and
if you
Bass
go
Coast,
back
which is
to-
literally named Bass Coast, but it's the farthest thing from
but
bass.
if you go back to the earliest Shambhalas, like they had a predominantly trance stage.
Yeah.
Like if you
Interesting.
look
For
at
sure.
way like the really old footage
Yeah.
from I think DJ Vibe TV,
Yeah.
it's literally there's a trance stage there,
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
which is wild to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I would have loved that.
Yeah.
right
I
now.
mean, I think, yeah. The
and they had
overall
a side
marketing.
trance stage,
Mhm.
the Labyrinth, which is now the Grove,
Yeah.
The
was
Grotto, Grove?
The Grove.
the Grove.
Grove?
Yeah, the
It
Grove.
was literally a side trance stage.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Which
that's crazy.
Yeah. So like it's
Whoever was behind the
Yeah.
marketing behind
And the-
BC being a bass.
well that's the thing. It,
Well,
it
it's
didn't
not,
need
it's
marketing.
not that they were
Really
trying to be
good.
that.
Yeah.
It's just that within
scene-
that period of time, like 2000, I want to say 2009, 10, 11, 12,
Mm-hmm.
that's when Shambhala went from like, 8 or 7 or 6,000 people to like 10, 12 plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was when, Excision, Datsik, Downlink, like all these big not Vancouver, but BC artists were blowing up.
Yeah.
And they were all playing Shambhala.
Mm-hmm.
So, it kind of just skewed that way, and
Yeah.
and with Shambhala, like Shambhala is not a big festival by international standards, but it's a big festival for us.
Yeah.
And what
It's our
makes
biggest
it what
festival,
makes it
yeah.
unique is what makes it special. And the artists, the big artists that would go down there would talk about it internationally. So like it is our it was our best kept secret kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
It's our little
And-
flag. Woo, we're here.
Yeah, it is a
Yeah.
little thing we can hang our hat on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But either way,
Interesting.
coming back to Allya, yeah.
Oh yeah, you're still here.
Yeah. So
Can't get
what's
rid of
going on now? Like we've
Yeah.
talked about
We've gone
pre-COVID,
pretty.
we talked about a little bit of post-COVID,
Yeah.
and Allya, we've talked about the bikini board shorts parties on the podcast before.
Yeah, I played there.
And Allya's been a resident DJ for them since the beginning.
I guess I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was never asked
Within
to be
the
a
first or
resident,
second
but yeah,
show,
Yeah.
playing.
yeah.
You're always
And Tim from
Yeah.
that brand,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
we met through obviously from Wreck Beach, but he came during his peak season,
Yeah.
like when he's supposed to be selling freezes at the beach. He came to one of our camping festivals.
That's right.
And he saw that set that
Yeah.
I played there. He said, "That's
That's
what
my
you're
guy.
coming
Yeah.
to play for me."
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I have played probably like 80% of the.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
You're
not 100, Tim. Only about 80%. So let's go.
You're gonna
Yeah.
eat, Tim.
Let's get
Yeah,
those
yeah.
numbers up. Let's
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not playing the next one. I just played the last one.
Yeah.
So speaking of which, his next one is June 15th.
Mm-hmm.
And he's
Yeah.
got Hexo, Sage, another
Yeah.
mainstay of that brand.
Yeah.
So
You and Sage are always the
Yeah.
dynamic duo.
yeah. So check it out. If you are in
Yeah.
Vancouver, June 15th, it's going to be the next one.
Yeah.
What are-
And you are
always a good
on that
time.
show?
No,
You're
no,
not
no.
on
I'm
that
just
show?
going to
No, he was in
go.
the last
You're
one.
gonna go.
I'm just,
Yeah,
I just love those shows.
I've been
Mazen.
to every single one.
Yeah,
pretty
exactly.
much,
Yeah, yeah.
I missed maybe 2.
Yeah, same here.
I
Yeah.
love going to them. They're
Yeah.
so fun.
What else is going on?
What do you got?
So okay, we were talking about drum and bass earlier, and I was big up in Kumo. So their next drum and bass show is Tea and Sugar at Harbor on May the 17th. And then, so I'm not playing this show, but I thought I'd let you guys know that if you want to see me out in the wild, Saturday, May 18th, I'm going to go to the Denizens Patio Party that's put on by Zach, Francesco Rosa.
Are you on the lineup?
No, I'm just going to go.
Oh, you're just
I'm just
going?
letting you know where I am
Yeah,
in the
just gonna go
wild.
party with Allya.
After that,
Everybody does.
after that, I'm
It's
going.
kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Hello.
You want to party with me?
He
It's a
played
pad.
Paradiso.
It's a pet twice.
Yeah, twice. Yeah.
It's a patio party. Why wouldn't you want to do that?
Yeah.
So shout out Zach for that patio party. And then after that, later that night, Twisted is throwing a show at Red Room.
Crazy.
Yeah, with Digital Motions. So that'll be, it's a double headliner show with Crafty Cuts and Stanton Warriors.
Wow,
Ooh.
big,
So,
big show. For
that's
the
a big one.
D&B boys.
For the
Cool.
breakbeat people,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
we don't
Yeah.
get a lot of that in Vancouver anymore. That's a big one. And then I'm going to close off the night going to True Sound and Era Records Eclipse show and that's big local talent. Conca, Koji, Guess Who, Level Collective. So that's my big night out this month, guys.
That's your big night out.
If you want to, I'm tired. I'm tired. Okay.
We're little grandmas over here.
Yeah, grandmas specifically.
Yeah.
Specifically.
That's
Plural.
Yeah, all three of us. What else? You and I are going to Boris Breca next month.
That's right.
Oh,
Breca,
I'm coming
Boris-
to that.
Yeah, you are? Oh, I hope you got your
Probably.
ticket. Hope you got your ticket.
I don't know. Sneak my
All
way in.
right. She's small.
Yeah.
She'll fit. She'll fit.
I'm tiny. I'm baby.
What else do I do? Oh yeah, so I also mismanage a musical act called Mount Pleasant. Don't never call me a manager. I'm a mismanager. I give bad business advice, and I break ties when the artists fight over things.
Oh, good.
So and that's for Mount Pleasant, and they're finally doing their album release party on June 8th.
Exciting.
That is a invite only, but if you want to get on the guest list, hit me up. I have a few spots left. If you don't know who Mount Pleasant is, you should really have them on the show. They're one of the top progressive acts out of Vancouver. Now one half of them is out of Montreal. Like I'd put them on the same level as like Bob Moses.
Yeah, wow.
Like they're that dialed in.
Amazing.
I actually came home a day early from Paradise Blue last year, so I could go to that with them and go film their album live stream on the island. So that's
cool.
we're going to be showing our great works, which has been in post for a year. So I'm really excited to finally like let that out into the wild.
Exciting.
Other than that, as far as actual gigs, I'm finally doing my Per debut. So that'll be July 6th, and that's with Propa, Evelyn 13, and Melly Fresh.
Okay.
So that's a big one.
Yeah. Is that also at Industrial or?
I don't know.
So.
Yeah.
And if I did, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe I do, and I'm just being coy.
Just being facetious. Love that.
I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about this one, but apparently I'm playing Altitude.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
That'll be in Boston Bar. So that's from the 15th to the 19th
Love that
of
location.
August.
That is a
Oh
great
my
location.
God, it is beautiful.
So good.
It is so scenic.
Tell me more. Why? What's going on?
So it's in Boston Bar. It's on an actual campground. The campground has showers.
I'm
Actual
coming.
plumbing.
Sign me
There's
up.
plumbing.
Bathrooms?
Yeah, plumbing.
Flushable.
Do you remember Squamish Valley?
Yes.
So the forest, and then there's like the beach, and then the river. Just copy paste that there as
Yeah.
well. It's the
Really?
same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I need everyone to pray for
The
fair
showers
weather.
are legit. Mount Pleasant official. Thank you for confirming that. There we go. The shower. I love the confirmation.
Oh, Mount Pleasant's in the
Yeah.
chat.
Oh, there we
What
go.
Hanging out with
What
us.
up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, shout out John and Alex for that. Okay, cool. What else I got going on?
That's
Nothing
so
for me,
exciting.
but you know what? Koji Aiken's got a new track. Go pre-save it on Spotify. Friend of the channel.
Yeah.
Go pre-save it
of
on
the channel.
I think that's everyone I've got to shout out, all the things I got to talk about.
Yeah.
How do you
did
usually
your
sign this
homework.
thing off?
Well, what about your productions,
Oh,
Mr.
you could talk about me next time. So these days I'm wearing the house hat. I have a lot of house music. I've shared a lot of it with you.
Love,
Yeah.
obsessed, every single one.
I appreciate that. So
I
it's
played them out.
Oh, I didn't say you could do that.
Oh.
Yeah, no, you can do that. No, please play out my music.
Unofficially.
Music is meant to be shared.
Yes.
So that's going to start coming out this year.
So exciting. Are we going to work
That's
on
all I
something?
can say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told you, your best one,
Best
send
one?
it over. I think it's the one that you sent me a couple days ago.
Yeah.
But I was in Mexico. I might have been a little bit sauce, but I think it was good. I think it was good. Yeah.
well, stay
I gave you
tuned.
feedback on that one,
You
right?
did. Yeah. You said
that
it was great.
Yeah. So let's work on that one together. Let's finish
Exciting.
it up. I have
Stay
a
tuned.
couple other collabs with Vancouver locals. I don't want to say names because I don't want to speak things into existence. I just want to do them and get them out there. So
And then
do it
come back
there.
on the pod and tell us all about it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Get you guys to big up it for me. Cool.
Listening.
Yeah, this
party
was super
incoming.
fun. I hope for the however many people are out there. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
This is definitely one of the more
Yes.
active ones for sure.
Yeah,
Thank you for
absolutely.
listening. You
No,
know,
appreciate it. Yeah, there's fam and chat. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
This is going to be a good one. We're going to have this up on all the platforms. Make sure to go follow Allya
Yeah.
Yeah.
all of his adventures.
Yeah,
Are you-
Allya
We just kind of just touched on things, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Oh, yeah. That was
honestly,
a
you know what?
grand
Tell me, would
overview.
you like to see me back here again? Do you want me to get more specific about
The
something? There's
only
tons of
answer
stuff
is
we can
yes.
talk about.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Tons
We
of
can go
stuff.
deep. We can
Yeah.
go deep.
Yeah. The amount of
Yeah,
knowledge.
because we barely touched on the Life Awakened stuff. We barely touched
Oh.
on like what was it like playing at Paradiso? How did that go?
Yeah, yeah.
We barely touched on a lot of stuff. Like we
Yeah.
just kind of. I mean, that's how long he's
That's
been
the
doing it.
glaze.
Yeah.
Glaze on the donut.
Yeah.
We want to get into the meaty,
Yeah.
the juicy,
We didn't talk
the
about what
jelly.
he does for production and how he likes blah blah blah. We didn't talk about anything. We just kind of touched on everything.
What have we done here for 9 minutes?
We just touched on
Oh,
everything.
where were we? All of a
Little
sudden we
history
look
lesson.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have to have you back on.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you
for
guys so
being
much.
here.
Yeah.
Thank you for, well, you have to show up. Thank you all for being here. Make sure to follow everything down below. I will leave links. Vancouver is a little budding city, and we have Allya to thank.
Definitely a cornerstone of the scene from
Yes.
from a long time to now.
I know he's talked about
He's
his
maintained, like a lot of the people we talked about, they're not doing this shit anymore.
No.
He's still in it. So
One last story before we go.
Yeah.
The reason that I met Allya and remembered him so much is we met at Shambhala, and he was wearing a skunk outfit, and I was terrified. And I said, he's going to be my friend, because that is the most unique thing I've ever seen. And 10 years later, here we are.
yeah. Love that.
It was a panda.
It was a panda! And
If it
you
looked like-
remember the outfit.
If it looked like
was
a
kicking in.
Yeah. Were you the one I scared in the porta potty?
Oh, probably.
Okay, so all
I
right,
don't
here's
know.
quick one. All right. So I got tired. Like I was a troll at Shambhala. I still
Yes.
am a bit. Like I work with them now, so I can't be as trolly. But I used to do trolly things, and one of the things I did was I'd put on a full panda outfit,
Yeah.
and I would just pick a porta potty and stand in it until someone
Somebody
would open the door, and I would just.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe that was
That
maybe
is
that was
If you
it.
ever go to a festival and hear screams down the way, it's
Yeah.
probably Allya in
It's
a
probably
skunk
Allya.
outfit.
Yeah.
Sorry,
That's,
panda.
Listen, that's really trying to hone your craft, because that smells bad in a porta potty. So when you can
Yeah.
stand to be in
That
there for
is
15 minutes,
commitment.
Yeah.
that's
in a
commitment.
hot costume.
In the
Hot
heat.
day,
Yeah,
hot
yeah,
costume,
yeah.
hot
The
festival.
things I'll do for a laugh
It's a
at a
commitment
festival.
to the game. That's
Yeah,
what that is.
yeah.
That's a commitment to the game.
That's
And
it.
that's a
That's it.
commitment.
Ladies, not afraid of commitment. Write it down.
We'll try and get you songs, gigs, releases, and all the ladies. Okay, whatever
Not even
you're
one.
into.
Yeah.
Not even one. I'm good.
Well, stay tuned. We'll have him back on again. And we're also going to do the weekend report. So go nowhere. Stay here on the channel. And we'll talk to you very, very soon. Adios.